Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Logan, the drunken metalhead who muses, and tonight I'm joined by my fellow metal brother in arms, and also my actual brother in arms. We got Marc, also known as the Bio Knight, also known as Lunar Stein, which that is a good title. Good beer pun. Mine fell. I feel like mine fell short. Beer for the Gods was the best I could come up with 10 minutes left
It's
on
not
the
bad.
buzzer. It'll do. It'll do in a pinch.
It'll do.
Yeah. So yeah, we're here to talk about a important band for the both of us, but which is also an interesting band overall in the realm of metal. In Flames, and just kind of dive into their whole discography. This is an interesting undertaking for me, and kind of one that Marc over here initially proposed. It's interesting because up to this point, I've only ever thought about doing deep dives or discussions on bands where I legitimately enjoy their discography all the way through, like from the opening album to where they're currently at, and I'm like anticipating their next release. And this is definitely not that. This is an example of a band where, certain albums from them really hit hard and are important, but then at a certain point you just drop off. And I mean, drop off hard. So it was an interesting exercise in actually letting me listen to music that I would not normally ever listen to, because I'm one that I think most people are like this. We're not going to listen to music which we don't actively like, even if we like the band. So
it's an exercise in perseverance, really.
Yes, better summed up than whatever I just said. It was an exercise in perseverance, and I'm kind of interested to see what the end result will be after 14 albums of perseverance and a lot of listening. In fact, we were literally just wrapping up one of the more infamous albums in this catalog. Probably 5 minutes before we hit play. Yeah, couldn't even just get through it. So, in honor of that, no beer. Well, there's beer, but there's also whiskey, because it helped get through some of the latter era. So I don't know if anyone's actually watching right now, but if you are, cheers. Thanks for joining on a Saturday night. And
cheers.
Here's to In Flames, the good and the bad. It's whiskey.
That's good.
Yes. All right. Well, I guess for starters, how do we get into this band? Marc, you lead us off. What's the origin story here?
So way back in the day, my older brother got into this band called
I heard of that bastard. Yeah. Oh, we got Ben in the chat.
Cheers.
There's someone.
Yeah. I believe it. The first one I really listened to was just probably Clayman or Gesture Race, because that was the stuff you were playing as like a mainstay.
Yeah. So you said either Clayman or Gesture Race, so it wasn't.
It was close, because I believe you had already been like introduced to them and had like purchased the albums you wanted from them. Oh, Sounds of a Playground Fading was there too.
Yes, that was the other one.
That was one of them, with like ropes and stuff.
Yep.
But
so with you answering the question, you almost answer it for me as well, because those are indeed the first 3 In Flames albums that I bought: Clayman, Gesture Race, and Sounds of a Playground Fading. But to kind of like sequence it, for me, it was actually hearing Take This Life on Guitar Hero 3. It was a downloadable content on that on that game. And it was definitely before I was ready to hear anything that extreme, but it definitely still left an impression. It was a name that was familiar to me.
Hmm.
And so when I eventually heard people hyping up, you know, certain albums, I was like, all right, let's check it out. And the first song I heard was Only for the Week. And that shit just blew me away. It was very early on in me trying to get into harsher vocals and
Hmm.
just more intense metal in general. And man, that was perfect. That was like the perfect recipe of just catchy song structures, just harsh enough vocals, like just the right amount of down-tuned
Yes.
guitar and intensity. And I mean, I immediately downloaded the whole Clayman album and then went seeking to purchase one. And right at that time, that's when Sounds of a Playground Fading came out. And so I was immediately introduced to like the dichotomy of In Flames of it being capable of, releasing something that I immediately fell in love with, like Clayman, to also something that I was immediately disappointed with, which was Sounds of a Playground Fading, which even when I heard it all, back in high school, I was
Hmm.
not blown away by it. I was not incredibly impressed by
Remember you
what all
sold
was
it
on offer.
in like a few years. You had resold it.
Yep. I sold it, but in honor of this stream and really in honor of you, I know that like I'm interested to hear what you say about this album because I know it was a nostalgic one for you and it
Yes.
is indeed nostalgic for me. I bought it again. So look,
There we
I've
are.
come full circle. The sickness is real. This is definitely not an album I need to own, but I own it for the history. It's for the history. So, all right. With that kind of out of the way, I kind of want to do a little quick conversation about, well, first off, when we start diving into these albums, a certain theme is going to appear right off the bat, actually. And that theme is like change and progression and just transitioning from one
Yes.
sound to the other. In Flames, they never like to stay stagnant. This included with their roster as well as their sound. I mean, these guys, like
They
every
didn't
single album,
actually
huh?
they didn't actually change that much after the first change up with I mean,
Well,
there are a few
there's a
times,
couple iterations though of like
but
the
they're
big
like a few albums
change
long.
ups.
It's not every album. Like
I don't know, Mark. I after covering a band like Gojira and Mastodon, where it's like there's not a single change up.
how many
There's
albums is that?
8, 9. I mean, that's like that's compared. That's
Yeah,
pretty good. That's not a
that's
small
pretty good. That's pretty
small
good.
amount.
Yes.
So to me, there's a lot of change in this band, and even how they begin. You know, there's a
Well,
lot of change.
so
So
Jesper Stromblad, are you? How do you want to set up the
so I
lineup?
was gonna say this is kind of leading me to ask the question: what do you do with a band that is ever changing? Like, do you try to stick with them as long as possible, or
Hmm.
are you very much more selective? And this is just more of like a broad question. Like, as we're approaching a band like this, generally, do you try to remain faithful with a band that's experimenting and changing, or are you ready to jump off as soon as you know, it goes one step too far?
Well, I think we both have the same answer,
Which is,
which is listen to what you like.
damn you, that was my answer.
Yeah.
No, well, I would say listen to what you like, but I'm not going to deny that there is a part of me that is willing to give bands that I truly love more of a chance. Like, for example, let's talk Gojira, since that was the last band I kind of like did a dive on. They
Hmm.
are currently exploring more commercial and simpler territory with their music. But I've adjusted how I approach listening to their new material. I'm ready for something that's a bit more commercial, and I'm not disappointed by it. I obviously don't love it to the same extent that I love their, um, in my mind, classic material. But I I'm ready to go there within the experimenting that they've done. But I think if they took it a little too much further than my comfort zone, that's when I would kind of shut the door on that band.
It's interesting. A lot of bands I noticed do like progress and get more uh, mainstream and softer than their first sound.
Yeah.
Like Mastodon sort of did that. Not quite as much. And they didn't so much as try and ape other genres as just it's different. It's not all the same. You can change in different ways.
Yeah. To me, there is a change that is so far removed from your original sound that's when I kind of jump off.
I mean,
Typically,
play Remission back to back with the Hunter or something.
all right,
I don't know.
Point taken. Point taken.
But it sounds good.
Yeah,
like the Hunter's good.
Exactly. So that's what I guess I'm trying to set myself up for a defense to say that this doesn't sound good. I do like it when bands change, and I'm okay with a band changing their sound. But if it doesn't sound good, I'll stop giving that extra attempt. And really, even the albums that came after Clayman, I'd still pick them up and like listen to them. Like, I do have this. Yes. So there we go. I don't know. I think that kind of sets up some of the discussion that will end up inevitably happening. We can kind of dive in now into the actual discography. We got a couple people in the chat. We got Chris here, who's
there we go.
A couple people actually do not know In Flames at all. So Chris would be new to In Flames. He's here to get the education. And then Ben, who popped in earlier, also, as far as I know, new. So I'm ready to give some recommendations on albums. If you guys mentioned in the chat, like what kind of melodic death metal or just what sounds good to you.
Does he like Depeche Mode or Go Gotham?
I think he does like Depeche Mode. There might be a certain song that In Flames covers from Depeche Mode.
Yeah, that
I personally enjoy. And also we got John. Cheers, John. Gothenburg is a great scene. So I think oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what to
try their earlier years.
Yeah, we're gonna give you some recommendations for some earlier stuff, Ben, because there's nothing from the latter years. Yeah, so definitely not gone into. And one sec, Mark, will there be spreadsheets?
Always.
We got spreadsheets. We came prepared. I too have a spreadsheet. I don't know if I'll use it, but
it's there.
Sorry. Reference. So to kind of dive into the history real quick, we're going to Gothenburg, Sweden, circa like the late 1980s, 89, 90. There is another band called Ceremonial Oath, which I think a lot of people should be relatively familiar with. They are one of those like old school Swedish death metal bands. They released 2 albums. The one I want to mention, it's The Book of Truth, is the one I want to highlight. That was released in 1993. And one of the members of Ceremonial Oath, Jesper, I want to make sure I say the name
Stromblad.
Right. Stromblad. Thank you.
I don't know how to pronounce the O
Uh,
with the umlaut on it though.
so he was in this Swedish death metal band. And he wanted to do more. He wanted to write more music that just had a little bit more melody and it was maybe just a little more catchy. And it was essentially told no from the other dudes at Ceremonial Oath. Go elsewhere to make melodic music.
So
And
he
so
did.
in 1990 he formed In Flames, and it's a pretty interesting roster of ever rotating people. Like
They
he
have a lot of
recruited
session
automatically.
musicians
Yeah,
for their first stuff.
like really the beginning of the band is just this. It's Jesper and who else did he recruit? I wrote down here. Glenn. Oh, the umlauts. Glenn Longstrom on guitar and
From.
Johan Larson on bass.
Hmm.
And then for vocals and drums, it was basically just session musicians.
I thought
We're
he did
both
drums, Jesper.
uh shoot, let me see. I don't know. For the beginning, he was or they were even using session musicians for in studio as well as live. So they were just basically making it work, and I think they were just having fun being a part of this scene, which included, Ceremonial Oath and Dark Tranquility, among others.
Yes, Drumbud was on drums until
Oh,
1994.
huh. I'm going to say I didn't know that, but I, I think I forgot. Shit happens. But so they're using, session musicians and stuff, and they use some session musicians to record a demo in 1993 and get immediately signed. And that takes us to releasing their debut in 1994, which is, of course, this album right here, Lunar Stein. Wait, no, I mean Lunar Strain. So the session musician that they have for vocals is Michael Stan. I'm hoping I once again pronounced that last name correctly, but most popularly known as the vocalist for Dark Tranquility. At the time, he was just doing guitars and backing vocals for Dark
Hmm.
Tranquility, and actually Anders, who is
And
now
yes,
in
Anders Freiden.
Flames, yeah, Anders Freiden was the vocalist for Dark Tranquility and released their debut album with them, Sky Dancer, back in
Yes,
I want to say 1993. It was.
I don't know.
So they did a little swap. Yeah, it was 93. They did a little swap, and Michael, from the guitarist, popped up on this album right here.
He
So,
realized he could sing, and then
yep.
took
And
over
then
in his own band.
I'm kind of wondering if that's like what happened. If Jesper was like,
Hmm.
"Hey, let's do a trade." That guitarist of yours is pretty good, and I kind of like how Anders sounds. So give it. Let's
Yeah.
like an old baseball swap or draft swap.
Yes. Great renown.
Mm-hmm. in the metal history books for sure. But yeah, that sets us up to their debut. Which, Mark, do you got your spreadsheet ready, or do you want me to go
Yes,
for
I
it?
do.
Okay, all you, my
What
friend.
what do I do? Present?
Yeah, I think you present.
I thought I could present a specific. How do I do this? I've forgotten
Oh,
already.
I forgot we should have actually done this before we went live. So, such is life. I can share my screen.
Let's see.
All right, so I got mine pulled up.
Okay.
I
That's
think
on the
you.
wrong. So how do I thought I could like share my tab.
Yeah, you do hit present.
Present. Share screen.
Mm-hmm. And then it should give you an option of what tab you want to share.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, perfect. All right.
It's a little small.
Now we're moving on to spreadsheets.
Well, yes.
Here we go. The Lunar Strain presentation.
Love the old logo right there. This really terrible resolution on this photo, but
it's worth it for the old
from
logo,
Wikipedia.
Though.
Yes. Wish they kept that around longer.
I am a fan of the old logo. To me, it's a bummer that it only lasted 2 albums. They could have kept it around a little bit longer.
Well, we start off with Behind Space, which is a great song. I love it. It's 10/10 for me. It has several beat changes like, they drop out all the heavy guitars and go straight to like just a acoustic sound type. And it's very high quality. So a good intro track.
Mm-hmm.
Lunar Strain is the next song. On the one I listen to, Logan has a different mix up with the repressing or whatever, reissue.
They don't even know about it, but yeah.
Oh yeah. They got the songs mixed up. So I thought it wasn't fresh enough, or like it's good, but it's not great. Star Forsaken's very good. I like the violin. I like the rhythms they have. This album's, we have the first instrumental, Dreamscape, which is In Flames does a lot of instrumentals. So there are probably a few albums that don't have instrumentals on them, but those albums are not
meh. we don't need to talk. We don't need to talk about those albums yet. We'll get there soon enough. Let's not rush it.
It's an okay instrumental. It's very sort of like they just play around with some riffs and then don't really invent much. It's just
it doesn't really go anywhere. It's like a one note.
Yes.
Even the main motif of it is not that interesting to me. So I agree with you on basically on the rating that you gave it.
And to me, a lot of instrumentals are like that, even in other bands, but not in Flames. We have Everlost, Part 1. It's a good song. I just wrote solid. I didn't have any complaints. Everlost Part 2.
Blown away.
This one, yeah, that was good. That was pretty good. I like the vocals. This was the one with didn't they get someone to sing on this?
Yeah, there's a guest vocalist. I don't know if she's been in anything else. Her name is Jenica Johansson. Her only credit is
this
Lunar
song
Strain on the Oracle. So big shout out to Rick for popping in. He's doing another stream over on his channel. If anyone's interested, but
oh, nice!
Thank you for spreading the word. The word of In Flames. Tell them they got to get over here quick because before anyone knows it, we'll be talking about a sense of purpose or siren charm. So tell them to get over here while they can.
Hopefully, we won't talk about that for long. But we got Hargalaten. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but
that's probably right.
It's a folk song, right? And I know a lot of people say there's a strong folky influence on this album. Is that or something like that?
Yeah, I definitely heard that when just going into this release.
And well, they do have a folk song on it, so I don't know about the other sort of sounds they have, but it sort of is. Yeah, it sort of reminds me of that kind of stuff. In Saphira, I guess. Uh, In Flames, the what's a band track?
Their
Band self
titular
self
track.
self named titular track.
Their
Yeah,
self titulating track. I don't
titillated. Yeah,
know. Mm.
they're it's a good song. I really like this one. Good guitar. It's got a really groovy riff that sort of carries the song through. And they change it up pretty nice. It doesn't go stale. I don't how I don't have the time. I should add how long the song
Oh,
is.
here I got it right here. 5 minutes. 5:33.
5 minutes. Yeah,
Well,
it stays fresh.
it
I hear a bit of a
it
gallop.
doesn't feel like 5 minutes.
Hmm.
It's funny. The next two songs feel longer to me.
It's a real good solo, of course, and just a great finish as well. So I also a 10-10 song. Upon the Oaken Throne is I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I say I
Yeah,
think it has the best
it's okay.
intro. Yeah, but yeah, I guess it's over fast. For me, I thought it was pretty short. Or how long is it? It's 3 minutes.
2:49. Actually,
2:49.
both Upon an Oaken Throne and Clad in Shadows are 2:49.
Clad in Shadows is also good. It yeah, not the best finisher. I think I like it better where it is on your
Mm-hmm.
reissue, actually, just in terms of the album. And that's I have Subterranean next because it's an EP, so I didn't make a whole page for it. But
We'll talk about that in a second.
yeah, Lunar Strain for me is an 8 uh,
Was that
8.6, 8.5.
Wow. So it starts pretty strong for you then. I wasn't sure if you were
Yeah,
gonna like the more intense death metal elements because this is definitely their most well, just straight up death metal album, and really the production is pretty bare bones, and
you don't.
it definitely doesn't polish anything for you. You kind of have to dig to hear
A lot of
certain
bands
things.
polish too much. They just
Oh, absolutely.
take like a bunch of grits and just polish down to the nub. There just isn't enough song. Like
It's like, oh, this is a great computer program here. All right, so for me, let's see. I'll quickly just show off my pressing. So one thing about In Flames and just kind of collecting them on physical media, they enjoy doing lots of different represses. And on every repress, there's like a different order of track listing and different bonus songs and different stuff that they tack on. It's definitely not consistent, and each repress kind of changes up the bonus songs and the extra content. So this is a Candlelight USA version of this album, which features the first 10 songs of this album. Right here is Lunar Strain, but actually not in the order that it's listed on this track listing. Someone somewhere fucked up and actually swapped. Was it Clad in Shadows? They swapped.
they didn't swap it. They
Or
put
they
Clad
just
in Shadows second, and every
yes,
other song is just bunked down.
yeah. So it goes behind space, then Clad in Shadows, then all the way, and
Then
then
Lunar
after In
Strain all the
Flames,
way
it
through.
goes. Yeah, it just ends on Upon an Oaken Throne. So I don't know. Shit happens, I guess. And then there's some extra like promo versions and stuff of some of the songs.
Hmm. The first demo, I think, is attached to the end.
Yes, you're right. It's the 1993 promo version with the demo. So this is cool. Some copies of this album also include the Subterranean EP, which we will talk about right after this. And if you can track down a copy of that, I highly recommend it. Like if you all who are in the chat do not necessarily like the more polished sound of like 90s melodic death metal, I would highly recommend just picking up this copy, picking up a copy of Lunar Strain with Subterranean on it, and just kind of calling it a day, because that's some great material right there. And the Lunar Strain album itself, it wastes no time. Uh, it's 10 songs at 36 minutes long, and it really shows a band that you can tell is fresh out of different Swedish death metal bands from the early 90s, late 80s. It sounds unrelenting and savage in a way, and you can tell that they're trying to grasp at more and grasp at different influences, but they don't quite yet know what to do with them. Like, it feels like the folk influences and the certain melodic desires of Jesper are kind of just separate at this point. It's not like he's incorporating them in with the death metal elements yet. It's like, oh, here's the quick, furious, Swedish death metal track, and then here is the folky interlude song.
Yeah,
And I kind of just wish they could have connected them a little bit better.
and some of the tracks will be like just pure, just death metal with some great riffs and rhythm, and then you get an outro, like a minute and a half outro of just pure,
Yep,
just melody and no actual like drums or anything, but just.
Which Behind Space is one of those songs, the opener. And I agree with you, Mark. It's my favorite song on the album. It's a band favorite and a fan favorite. I mean, they still play it live to this day. It's actually been re-released on 2 other CDs that I have. So they really like this song and they want it to be heard. And I mean, I'm here for it. I don't give it a 10. I give it a 9. But it's super strong. I like the intensity of it. That opening riff and introduction to Michael's vocals is stellar. I like the drums too. That the intensity of those are great. And then there's a middle section, which is that weird, like almost symphonic 90s spoken word section. And
yes. Oh. Behind space. Yeah.
Behind space. And you're like, what the fuck am I listening to? But it's cool. I like it. On the other iterations of that song, it's not there. And I think it's worth being on the track. So definitely the Lunar Strain version of Behind Space is the best. Mark, you did a pretty good job of talking about the title track. I was not as crazy about Star Forsaken. I agreed with you about Dreamscape. I like Everlost a lot, but to me, it's once again an example of their sounds being in 2 separate corners. They got like the more death metal sound on part 1, and then the more folky, like melodic part they wanted to include in part 2. They just probably didn't know how to do it and make it one song. I will say that the part 1 is straight up death doom, or it's just death, like the death metal with doom metal elements. It's slow, it's punishing, it's kind of one note, like not a lot of variation, but I think if you listen to it with in tandem with part 2, which why wouldn't you, it works really well. And one of my favorites on the album.
Back to back, not like at the same time. Yeah, okay.
Yes, sorry. One right after the other. Thank you for clarifying. One right after the other. It works. And then I agree. in the title track "In Flames" also shows where they're going to go, and it might be the song on the album which best incorporates their newer
Hmm.
the newer sound that they want to go to, with more melodic guitars going on underneath. And then I'm not as crazy about ending with "Upon an Oaken Throne" and "Clad in Shadows" back to back. They
Oh, you
both,
didn't.
well, but I was listening to
True.
the Spotify stream all week in preparation, and they did it right, to give Spotify some credit. So uh, to me, it's two songs that serve the same purpose back to
Hmm.
back. They blend into one another, and it's tough for me to like determine where one begins and one ends, and so on. But I definitely enjoy this album. For me, it is a 7.8, so it's a little lower. It doesn't quite break into that like 8 territory, because I think some of the ideas are not fully formed yet, and
Hmm.
it's all about where they're going to go from here. So, but good start. Definitely recommend it, especially if you don't like your melodic death metal a little more polished and catchy.
Yeah.
All right. From there is some more subtle changes before we get to the next full length. We definitely have to talk about a certain EP which was released. So in 1995, we have the release of Subterranean. Also, quick segue. I'm bummed I don't have the copy of either of these albums with the old logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't even
That
have like
sucks.
the newer logo that was used in the 90s, or it's just a font.
That's like the Come Clarity logo,
I have a fucking
isn't it?
font. Yeah, I think you're right. So, I mean,
But
that
those
might be
were
when these
released
reissues were
2005,
released.
right?
Yep, 2005.
Yeah.
Yep, 2005. So, yeah, I guess that's what they grabbed, was just the most current logo. But I mean, these were released on Candlelight, so. But
I mean, it
yeah,
was like they jumped through a bunch of hoops. Like Studio, what was it? What's the first one they did? Studio Fredman,
yes, that's where these were recorded.
and then the distributor was, I don't remember. And then you go to Regain Records, and
Hmm.
then it was at Candlelight. So there was
A lot behind the scenes went into releasing, which I was able to find this, I would say, in preparation for this stream, but is really just to own it, because this shit's awesome. I was able to find this on eBay pretty easily for not too bad. So I would recommend picking this one up if you can. Um, but the big distinction on this little EP right here is it has a different vocalist, not Michael Stan, but
mm-hmm.
instead Hinke Force. But he's the vocalist for a band called Dawn, which I am familiar with in name only, not familiar with in any of their material. But they released a couple albums in the early 90s that I've definitely heard other people in the YouTube metal sphere talk very highly about. So he's vocals on here, and he definitely tries, or I don't know if he tries, but he does strike a very similar note to what Michael
Michael
did
Stone.
on
Yeah.
Lunar Strain. So I guess real quick, what are your thoughts on this album? Which, to give you credit, you turned me on to this, because
I really like it.
I had not heard this until you played certain songs for me.
I really like it. It's like Lunar Strain with the bad songs gone, and they're not bad songs, but it's like the ones that are sub 9 or just the subpar songs were removed.
Yeah,
And I mean, it is shorter.
I think
Yeah, that's
that
true.
helps too. I was going to say, I kind of agree with that. But
Yeah, they cleaned up their sound and
mhm.
made it mesh really with the the folky elements really bound together with the death metal elements that previews Jester Race, because that's also a big part of Jester Race.
Yeah.
Is that sound?
Yeah. For me, I think it's a great segue, and it's kind of a little bit more how I would have wanted Lunar Strain to sound. I mean, Lunar Strain's great, but I think this jumps over it and jumps over most of their albums too. Like it probably lands a little higher.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to add this to the ranking, it'd probably be a little higher up. But it does a great job of kind of setting the stage, as John points out in the comments, to Jester Race. I don't know if it adds as much in the folky elements, but it definitely highlights the melodicism that I think Jesper wanted to add a lot more.
Yes.
And I mean, I told you this earlier. I think there's some like new wave of British heavy metal or just early heavy metal riffage here and
Mm-hmm.
guitar melodies, you know?
And yeah, I don't think they added more folk metal, but they toned down the excessive, like the too much focus on the folkiness from Lunar Strain and meshed it with the death metal they had.
Mm-hmm. And there's no interludes either. I mean, we got like 5 actual songs on here that are all fairly ripping and to the throat.
Is Timeless not an instrumental?
Oh, shit. Damn you, Mark. It probably isn't. I'm looking it up.
I don't know.
It is an instrumental. Well, shit. That's my least favorite song then.
Well,
Stand Ablaze is a great
enough.
opener. Ever Dying is definitely a favorite. My favorite 2 tracks are the title track, Subterranean, and Biosphere. Subterranean has a very jagged guitar riff that I absolutely love, and a killer tempo change about halfway through. And Biosphere, best song on the album. That for me, that's a 10 out of 10 track. It has that like just sweeping, overarching, like Iron Maiden lead melody that I love. I thought it was great. So you kind of agree with the track listing or anything else you want to?
I don't know. I can share my spreadsheet, but yes.
Okay, share the spreadsheet.
Yeah, we have Stand Ablaze, which I really loved. It's a great, yeah, I say it's the best example of the melodies they made. I misspelled lineup right here.
Oh, good catch.
And I think, yeah, I think this is a good preview into their next album. I like Stand Ablaze is great. Ever Dying, I also love. Just the sort of like how they use the vocals on this one, and the riffs and the. Yeah, right. I think I say right here that it took too long. Yeah, they should have ended it at 3 minutes and the last minute, I don't think added to the song much.
Mm-hmm.
Subterranean, I say it's very boppy, but
it's a good word for it.
It's sort of bouncy. I don't
boppy.
Know. It's some guy in the YouTube comments of the video I was listening to said it sounded like a Toho soundtrack, which Toho is a game series that started out in like 95, 96, which is a bullet hell, basically.
What games did they make?
A bunch of... Do you know... A bunch of games. Do you know what Bad Apple is? It's like an anime song. Yeah, okay.
Nope.
It probably has like 100 million views or something. Let's see. But I thought it was funny
If they
because
mentioned that.
That was not my first thought. but I haven't played. Well, 72 million views is how many views it has. That is Timeless is a decent instrumental. It's better than the instrumental on Lunar Strain. Biosphere, as you said, it has a good sort of. I thought it was very Iron Maiden-ish. Yeah, I wrote that here when I first listened. When I listened to it for this write-up. So we definitely noticed the same bits of that. Yeah, it's good alternation in speeds and tempo changes. I think it's the best, probably the best song from, by this era, I mean like the 90s In Flames, like until Clayman.
Oh, wow.
I think it's maybe my favorite.
I disagree, but not by much.
I have Dead Eternity and the Inborn Lifeless on here, which I think those are bonus tracks on yours.
It's on here too, yeah. What did you think of those takes?
Let me just.
Oh, you're
9.2. Okay.
Oh shit.
9.2 would be what the 5 songs on the EP get from me.
Nice. I didn't necessarily estimate or use the spreadsheet for this one, but if I were to just give a rating, it would probably be like an 8.4, 8.5, something like that. It's killer. I quickly want to highlight that mine, in addition to the Dead Eternity and Inborn Lifeless copies, it also has a cover of Eye of the Beholder and Murders in the Rue Morgue. So Eye of the Beholder features a vocalist that was only ever used on that song. Which I thought I had him pulled up, but apparently I don't. But then Murders in the Rue Morgue is Anders on vocals. So finally he pops into the band on Subterranean of all releases. So I would personally recommend this copy because I think it's cool to have those covers in addition, because I think everything else that you get does not come with those 2 covers. I don't know where else you would get them from,
Yeah, I know the combo I don't think has the covers.
No, it's just the 5 original and then the 2 extra songs, right, that are the
Dead Eternity and Inborn Lifeless, which both appear on Jester Race in sort of new forms. Dead Eternity is closer to what it was.
Yeah.
Inborn Lifeless changes names.
Yeah, Born Lifeless becomes Dead God in Me. Yeah. I had their other song, Man Made God, in my head. But okay, yeah. It's a bonus song on Colony.
Oh.
I've been listening to too much In Flames. So yeah, after Subterranean, they finally settled into some full-time musicians to kind of round out the lineup. I don't know. To me, say what you will, but it took 5 years for this to happen. Like from the initial inception. Yeah, 5 years to find, a full band, if you will. Joining, we have Bjorn Jolett, and he joins initially as the drummer. That name should be familiar because, he's still with the band. He's one of the few. He's one of 2 members, along with Anders, who's still in the band. but he switches from being the drums to playing lead guitar,
Very
which
similar to Jesper, who just does that right now. When,
yes,
like he's now doing
when he
the lead
comes in,
guitar.
yeah. And when you're looking at credits, he actually does some of the lead and acoustic guitar work uh,
Hmm.
on this one as well as Horacle, Bjorn. I mean, so he was definitely already contributing as a guitarist too.
Do they all have songwriting credits on this one, or is it just Stromblad and Looms? Is Loomstrom and he's still
Uh,
here, right? I think he
yeah,
leaves later in
he is.
Colony or something.
Yes, I believe, or after Horacle, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they they're definitely all on this one. Um, so yeah, and then Andrews joins departing Dark Tranquility, and there we go. And then that to me leaves an interesting note of all the band members who recorded these two albums are no longer in the band.
Jesper is there.
No. Currently, sorry, they're
Oh,
no
yeah.
longer currently in the band In
That's
Flames
true.
is what I meant. So that just it opens up to like, when did In Flames fully start? Like some could argue that maybe this is the realization of that In Flames sound,
And some
fully.
can argue that it is the death of it. No,
And some could argue that they peaked on Subterranean.
I have heard people say that.
Yeah, I mean, um,
I don't think they
let's
did though.
see. So yeah, this one was released in 1996. Also recorded at Studio Friedman. It was also co-produced by the owner of the studio, Frederick Nordstrom. Um, and I think to many people, this is like the In Flames album. I see you got your spreadsheet pulled up. You ready to go?
You sure?
Alrighty.
So on this album, they have they, as we sort of already mentioned, they have the best blend of acoustic melody and their riff-driven metal that they are sort of, for me at least, they're known for. Right? That's
Mm-hmm.
some of my favorite bits. And Frieden Anders does his vocal performance. I think it's pretty good. I like it a lot. He has some range, or he does a variety of vocals. Right? It's not all just the sort of classic death metal vocal that you hear a lot. I also, when I put this album on, I just listen to it all the way through. Right? I normally don't. I wouldn't like recut this into a playlist or something. Like make a mix with a few songs off of this. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah, I
listen to the
mean,
whole album.
it flows pretty well for
It
an In
starts
Flames
off
album.
with The Moon Shield, which is a fairly relaxed song. And it's pretty good. It's a great intro song, in my opinion. And it sets up the album well. Then you get immediately an instrumental. Forget how long this one is, but it's a
It's
good
like two and a half. It's two
instrumental.
and a half minutes. It's not long,
Doesn't
but
outlive its welcome,
no.
which instrumentals are. To me, it's difficult to make a good instrumental. But Artifacts of the Black Rain, this is a great song. I love it. I love it's sort of that they have a classic sort of intro riff and then they switch it up to sort of the melody that they'll bring back later. And they just, then you get into the singing, then you get to, there's of course no choruses really, which is, you don't really need them.
No, and it's kind of refreshing when it comes to like In Flames overall.
Well, yeah, we have we haven't yet uh, run into the In Flames chorus writing. Graveland. It's a good song. They have some spoken vocals in here. Anders is doing his sort of vocal. He always does. I don't think he ever does not do this, right? Where he
On any album, right? Where
on any album, he always has that sort of like mix between sort of relaxed, unstrained, almost whispery vocals. It varies depending on the album, like, but these are more
on that Graveland album or on that Graveland song. Sorry, it especially, it's almost like he's trying to sound like back here,
yes,
like he's some godlike figure or something.
Mm-hmm. I like how basically in this early stuff, all that stuff sort of takes a back seat to the instrumentation, right? Like it's there to add atmosphere.
Yeah.
Not to be like the main point.
Because it's like another song where if you were trying to map it out, it wouldn't map out like an actual song. It would just be like intense blasty part here, and then the atmospheric part here, and then, you know, the riff slow down over here.
And then it gets up to the build section and it builds up straight to the end, basically.
Yeah.
Right. Lord Hypnos, which is a classic. You can almost sing to this one, Lord Hit, but it's not the same, you know, not a vocal hit hook, even though I can at least
it's a guitar hook.
Lord Hypnos. Yeah.
It's like, because it's the guitar that's hooking you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of these, I mentioned it on Lord Hypnos right here. They got rid of the acoustic outro endings that sort of drag on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of just ends right when the death metal, right when the riff ends.
But then they'll take that, and with the next song, like Dead Eternity, they'll maybe start it a little slower. Like it's got Dead Eternity has a cool start to it.
Yes. This one, I think I have it one rank. I like it better than the Dead Eternity that appeared on Subterranean. I think it's just like mixing, or maybe it's Anders on the vocals that I like more. But it's a good song. The Jester Race. It has a great mix of them. You did.
So why'd you give that one a 10? I think I gave that one a 8.
I just really like it. It has a call and answer. Like, here we go. What is it? There's something silence. Isn't that the song? The here we go.
It sounds right.
That part? I think that's
It
has sort of like
it goes and we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also, it's very
embracing
common
the
for
tools
me
of
to
the
mishear
Neo-Wolf age. Yeah.
Anders' vocals.
Yes, we will mention about some misheard lyrics.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's some on the bonus tracks. December Flower, good song. It's a great song. It also is, like, even before I really I don't know why I wouldn't register the name of the song, but this album to me is also like a December album. Or like,
Hmm.
It's a winter album. I think you've mentioned that on a few of your videos where you
I mentioned albums being
listen
certain
to,
seasons and stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
This this one I've never thought about a season to associate with it. But that's interesting that you think it sounds like a winter album. But I guess I get a Moonshield kind of sounds like it would fit like a colder setting and stuff.
yeah. The only one that literally has winter in the name is December Flower, but
Hmm.
a lot of it is about death and dreaming and graves, and that sort of is all just stuff I associate with
The winter
Christmas.
months. Yeah.
Yeah,
Of Christmas, naturally.
yeah. The Nightmare Before Christmas is
Mm.
it's a classic Christmas movie. Uh, Wayfarer is one of their best
Speaking of
instrumentals.
Christmas, yeah.
Yeah, they break out into like some Christmassy chords.
We think it sounds like Trans-Siberian Orchestra, or I think it does. It
I
makes me,
think
or
so too.
some like neoclassical band
Yeah, when they pop out the guitars and
that could like rewrite,
do some Beethoven or whatever.
you know, Moonlight Sonata or something.
Dead God and Me, which is a remake of sort of, I think, a perfection of Inborn Lifeless. I really like this song.
Wow, a 10.
Yeah. I really like it. It has that baby section and then the scream and then the end. Which is sort of weird saying out loud, but
It's a little off-putting. I don't know if I necessarily like it. It makes me think of what they did in Behind Space with the
well, I like that too.
all the weird vocals. I like that there too, but for like an ending song, it just, and especially like the album is about to end in 30 seconds, and it's just
True.
this, 30-second portion of a baby crying before the woman screams. You're like, what's going on?
Which, to be fair, that's why I also think the bonus songs, which we can't stop for, my rating is just for these upper
Yeah,
ones. The
mine too.
This stuff is from, I think, Black Ash Inheritance. These bonus tracks at the bottom.
Hmm.
And I know on the reissue that you had that we listened to, I think you owned it, right? These songs were on there, right?
Yep.
So, what, you know, the whole time I've listened to this album, I've always had these songs on the end.
Yeah. So it was always
Which,
synonymous.
mhm. Goliath Disarmed Their Davids, which is a great song. I think it's probably a better ending song than Dead God and Me. That's true. Gyroscope, which comes in on Horacle, and it has some. I always hear the in the mouth of the first butthole, which
Huh.
at the 2 minute mark, yeah, I think it's a good song. It's in the mouth of her firstborn hope, is what the in the mouth of her firstborn hope. That's how they
So
do it.
just mistranslated or something, or you misheard.
Misheard. I
Yeah.
misheard it. Born Hope became Butthole somehow. I think it's just Andrew's voice. He also pairs words strangely, right?
You can definitely tell.
Like they didn't pair
English is not
firstborn
his.
together, even
Yeah.
though they're hyphenated. So technically it should be one word, but they separated it to
Yep.
the.
Some of these Swedish bands, you can just tell English is not necessarily their most comfortable language.
Yeah. And then here we have acoustic medley, which is just a medley of various riffs and melodies and sort of an acoustic guitar, which is from Artifacts of the Black Rain, Dead Eternity, and Joe Time.
Yeah.
And I guess my score is 9.1 for that.
Ow. So
That would be
that's pretty good. That's below what you gave
Subterranean.
Subterranean, but that's just an EP. So you
That's
almost
just
have
an
to
EP.
weight it a little bit differently.
Well, it's so few songs. When you have
It's
that
easier
limited
to
number of
knock
songs,
that
it's
out of the
easier to
park.
just, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a single from Come Clarity is probably like, what did I put that one?
From which one?
What was isn't the single for Come Clarity, Come Clarity?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. The Clean Sung one?
Yeah. That would be like an 8. Which is if it was just that single, you know. And it's just not
that's
the same in the rest of the album.
Yeah. So John's saying this is an album of what we do, and it does make the distinction. It's what we did. So what they did do though is great. And like here's my
the
copy.
Thing is those albums, they never really, I mean, they sort of, sometimes they change less on the next album than others, but this album, I think Oracle is pretty far from this album in terms of sound.
Oracle definitely is. Like that's a big leap.
Like they don't ever really do this sound ever again.
No. Like we were talking about song structures and stuff earlier, and about how they structure songs here, and how they do it here versus how they do it on Oracle is entirely different. Oracle, they go right to pop songwriting, you know, verse,
they start more
pre-chorus, verse. Yeah, not on every single song, but it starts here.
It begins to crop in.
Here, they're just doing what they want to do, and what I think. You know, they think that the instrumentation needs and what they want, you know, what they want to do to show off. Because this, to me, is them showing off all their skill. And to a certain extent, when I think of In Flames and I reach for an In Flames album, this is what I want to hear. I want to hear just incredible guitar melodies that just kind of bounce off one another. They like establish a central motif for a song. They, you know, change variation with that motif and they play around with it. But then, the most importantly, they are just hook-laden guitar melodies and catchy, and they propel the song forward. And I mean, but at the same time, there's still like a death metal backbone to the music. So,
yeah,
The
thing is that every time they change their logo, they change their sound drastically, or fairly drastically, right?
Ooh, we'll have to. Yeah, you're probably right.
They're going to change their logo on Oracle. It's going to be a different logo.
Finally, I have the old school logo. Which, come on, I really like this. I like the stacked words and like just the jagged edges. It just makes me think of like a fire just rising. So I'm a fan of their old logo for sure. And I'll also mention real quick, I really like this album cover. I think this is my favorite In Flames cover. I've heard some people say it's stupid, but I don't know. I dig it. It looks like just
it's like a moving city with the throne on top.
A hovering fortress.
I think there are wheels.
I can't tell. It's kind of cool to think about, but I definitely see some space underneath.
That's like beneath the axles of the wheels, and then you have the wheels on the sides.
Okay.
That's what I always thought of it as.
Well, they're going from town to town,
and you see a few other
spreading their madness.
In the background, you see another tower racing them or whatever.
Yeah. So cool album cover, and just a cool album that really showcases what I want from In Flames. So
it also introduces their Jester album cover, like symbol thing, which I guess they sort of bring back even to this day.
You know, it's still making appearances, but but you're right. This is the beginning, and of course, they probably just did it initially just because it's called the Jester Race, and it's a
Hmm.
prominent feature of the songs and lyrics. But then they must have just liked the look of it and wanted to hold on to it
Hmm.
because the next album it's not on there, but then for Colony they bring it back. So
Yeah.
that must be one of those like rear view mirror decisions, you know. Um, but no, for my take on this album, song wise, I think the Moonshield's a great opener. It definitely shows their sound coming together, the acoustic uh, sensibility and like death metal are finally fully meshed. It's a little bit one note for me, so it's great, but not like amazing. But what immediately follows after is absolutely amazing. The Jester's Dance is my favorite In Flames instrumental. Period. It's 2.5 minutes of just beautiful bliss. I love the guitar interplay between like the more acoustic guitar and the electric guitar that comes in, and I just love the drum of the drums. The drum beat here
The
is
groove of the grouse, the
yeah
groove of the drums.
the groove of the drums. Cheers. Um, the drum beat here is phenomenal. And then when it has that like drum break section with the guitar where it goes boom 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 da 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 dum da da da. That
Hmm.
yeah, that shit's phenomenal. So that's a 10 out of 10 song for me. And then it immediately goes into my favorite In Flames song, period. Artifacts of the Black Rain. That is a top tier melodic death metal song and really just metal song in general. I love the intensity of it. I love the guitar melody that just sweeps
Hmm.
over it the whole time. I love the middle portion of it where there's like the guitar break and then the drums slowly come back in. It's just so much fun, and as I said, the speed of it is great, and it's done by the 3 minute mark. Perfect. And then I'll admit to listening to this album before I kind of knew how to listen to an album that was this extreme, kind of ruined certain parts of it for me for a little while. So I was definitely not ready to fully digest all of it when I first got this album. And after Artifacts of the Black Rain, I kind of just zoned out when Graveland came on. And I already knew that Goliaths Disarm Their Davids was on this copy that I have. So I would
Hmm.
just skip all the way down to that. And that just made me kind of forget and just not ever pay attention to the rest of the album. And I did that for probably like the first year or two of owning this thing before being like, oh yeah, maybe I should listen to, you know, Dead Eternity or Wayfarer. And
So,
to this day, whenever I listen to this album, there's always the voice in the back of my head that goes, "Are you bored?" Like while I'm listening to Graveland and Lord Hypnos. So my song skipping of my younger days came back to bite me.
yeah,
But
take this as a lesson. Don't skip
don't
songs.
listen to the whole album.
It's a dreadful addiction. Skipping songs.
I want to say that Dead Eternity though, great track. I love the ending to it. The lyrics there at the end are phenomenal. You'll never be alone again. You'll never die again. You'll never be born again. Stuck
Will forever
here in
be.
eternity.
Yeah.
And yeah, uh, it sounded good when the guy from Subterranean or whoever sang it on Subterranean sang it, and it sounds great with Anders as well. Um, and then Wayfarer, we already praised that track. That one's awesome. And then Dead God in Me is good, but like to me, not the ideal finisher. And once again, that might be because whenever I listened to this, it was always the pressing that had Black Ash Inheritance on it. Goliaths Disarm Their Davids, which is a 10 out of 10 song for me.
I think that's a better ending song.
So I would always just be waiting for that song to come in. I love the melody to it, the songwriting of it as well, because it's one of those where the chorus is the guitars, like that lead guitar riff is the chorus, and that's how they kind of use it in the song, and it really overshadows the second half of this album, in my opinion. If you're listening to, you know, with it in mind, which I did.
Yeah.
I still really love this album, though. I give it a 8.8 out of 10. So it's pretty strong up there, and I would highly recommend this to anyone who is looking for
I guess
an unpolished In Flames album.
I forgot to. Are we doing the ranking thing where we tell what
We
ranking this
can
is out of all of it? Or are we
we can
doing
do
that
that at the
at
end.
the end? Okay.
Yeah, we can do that at the end because I forgot about that too.
Well, this is only the second album, so.
All right, well, this is my number 2,
Same
and
here for me.
um,
Lunar Strain is your number.
I'm looking. 5.
Okay. For me, that's number 3.
Ah, okay. So both of our number 2, Chester Race. All right. So from that album, we're going to 1997. So they released their third studio album that year. Also, Studio Friedman. Once again, co-produced by Frederick Nordstrom. Um, After this album, or like I guess during the recording of it, there are other 2 members who were the guitarist and bassist Nicholas England and Peter. Wait, no, sorry, those were the ones who were recruited to fill in. But Lundstrom and Larson decided that they were leaving the album, or
This album or after
the
this album?
after. So they recorded it, but then
Yeah.
they were announced that they were leaving following the recording. And then Nicholas England and Peter Ivers were recruited to fill in the guitar and bass spots during a tour. But after said tour, the guitarist quit, and this let Bjorn fully step in as lead guitar and lead the drums. So, but during this album, he still contributed on acoustic and electric guitars during the recording. So, yep. So here we are. We're up to the Oracle, and I'm gonna let you.
Who's on drums now?
For this album, it's still Bjorn.
It's still, yeah.
Yeah.
Does he have songwriting credits? I know he starts writing songs either on this one or the next one.
I believe he does, and he has credits writing some of the electric and yeah, he helped to write Jotun, Morphing into Primal. Actually, a lot of these songs.
Yeah, and it's sort of all that. I know Anders, Gillette, and Stromblad all sort of help writing. Sort of all the way through until Stromblad leaves, I guess. I think Gillette still writes, which is
yeah. Someone's got to write the music. Here, I'll let you go ahead and dive into this one. I'll be right back.
You're going. Okay. Well, I think this album has a more muddled. It's more muddied than the previous one. The elements, the folk elements, and the melodeath elements, and the melodies and the riffs sort of blend together more on the songs for me. And they start using a sort of song pattern for like how they split up the song. Like this part goes here, this part goes there. Then they have this part where Anders sort of does his lower croaky vocals. And there are some good catchy songs on this, but there are also some songs which they're just there. Like I like them, but I don't want to listen to that song specifically, right? Like Jotan, it's the starting song. It has a good solid through line, but it just doesn't stick around for me. It's not a song I like. You know what? I want to listen to that song, which that's not true for Food for the Gods, which I think is a 10-10. When did you get back? Just
10, Food of the Gods.
Food of the Gods. Food for the Gods I
Wow.
really like. I think that it succeeds at the mumbled portion when he does his little mumbled bit that he will start doing a lot. And I think this is maybe it's just because it's one of the first ones where that is like successful and good. But I like it's a good song. They have Gyroscope coming in, which I like it. It's a good song. I think this is a good place on the album for it. I wrote here that I already mentioned everything liked about it on. I don't know if I talked about it much on the Jester race, but then we have Dialogue with the Stars. It's a good instrumental. Maintains the sort of standard of instrumentals that was set with on the Jester race, where they're good instrumentals. Like these are good displays of their sort of songwriting chops, and they're not boring.
I absolutely agree. I will say the dialogue for the stars is just a bit more subdued than Wayfarer was,
That's true.
which I kind of like. In, yeah, in comparison.
Hmm. Then we have the Hive, which there's sort of a buzzy noise beneath it. I guess they do something with the guitars. I'm not that familiar with how to play guitar, so I don't know how that works, but it has a nice noise to it. They have an interesting, I think they do like a interesting song design where they have a sort of initial almost chorus bit. I guess that would be the pre-chorus, but then they do sort of the bridge, and then they do a different chorus for the last half of the song. I think. I don't know if you noticed that, but
No, I'll mention it more when I start talking about this, but I have not had as much time with these tracks as I have their other releases, so still kind of picking apart like the song arrangements for it.
yes, I remember a good guitar solo. I honestly still like their guitar solos wherever they are. Just if I could detach them, but it's a good guitar solo. We have Gesture Script Transfigured. This is reminiscent of the previous album, I think, but not the best parts of it. It has a very sort of croaky sound to it. Some great verses. And here I also say it reminds me of Lunar Strain a bit.
Yeah, I get that.
Morphing into Primal. This is another 10-10 for me. I like the energy it has. How it sort of carries through the name of the song. The drum beat drives it out, and then they drop it off for the riff, and then I like the sort of alternation of layers that you get on this album, like when they layer the music together. And it's a good placement too, because it's a nice burst of energy to get you through album. I never really skipped songs unless I have to, I guess. Like if you only have a 10-minute car ride, you only can listen to so many songs. Worlds Within the Margin. It's a good one. I like the visual lyrics, like Meganura and the that's the kinetic of a moving fist, isn't? I, I think that's from this song, isn't it?
Uh, no, that's from.
The kinetic energy of a moving fist.
I believe that's from a Clayman song.
I don't think so. This is sort of Clayman-y though, but Worlds Within the Margin lyrics. I'm pretty sure it's in this one. Witnesses inhale the seed between the two of my eyes. In the kinetic energy of a moving fist, like a birth
Oh, it
machine
is.
for a parallel universe. Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
Episode 666. Yeah, I think this is sort of the quintessential sound of their new songwriting format, their song format. They're like segmented. It's more segmented, really. As everything has its place and they start repeating this sort of pattern. Like a ordinary story will have this sort of format, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, it starts on this album for sure.
Clayman has it like it's only. There are probably a few on Clayman that don't, but after this one we have a Depeche Mode cover.
Yep. Let's see if Chris pops back up in the chat.
Everything counts. I like it.
It's your lowest. Well, I guess you could rate Joe Tun low too, man.
I mean, they're not. 7 is
No.
not.
It could be
Yeah.
lower.
If I had to skip 2 songs on this album, it would be those 2.
Wow.
I don't know.
I mean, I will get to my ranking, but those are like my 2 favorites on the album are Joe Tun and Everything Counts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you on episode 666, but something about those songs to me, and maybe it's just because I'm a big fan of like the Clayman and Colony
I
albums.
am too, but
that's true. I don't know. But you like the punchiest and most energetic songs on here. Food for the Gods and Morphing into Primal are definitely more energetic, and
it might be the production or it may be just the noise on this album is very. I feel like it was muddied, so in a sense, the energetic sort of punch through song helps just stand apart, right? And what sticks out in some ways, at least in this sense, is good.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just focused more on them, so I gave them a higher rating. Maybe that's the why.
Yeah, you were trying to unlock the hidden mysteries of like
why
the songwriting and stuff
on this album. And that happens a lot, where the whole sound of the album can sometimes affect the sound of the song separate from what it would be as a single.
Yeah. In placement is also an important part of it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's Oracle is the last one, which is a good instrumental, in my opinion. I think it's probably worse than the Dialogue with the Stars. I like it as an ending one. It's not much worse.
It works in the context of the album for me. Mm-hmm. Like I guess I would say it's worse as a song, but then for what it does in the album, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, then we have 8.45 basically, which is
That's your overall rating.
yeah. So this is
And
this
what's the
comes in
ranking?
4
Ah,
under
okay.
lunar strain.
Okay. Very nice. All right, let's see. So for me, this is the In Flames album from this era of the first five that I've actually spent the least amount of time with. I don't know. Mark, you actually gave this album to me, I believe, as a birthday present
I
one
did.
year, and it was after my initial love affair with this band had ended. I put away, Clayman and Colony and stuff, and I guess I just was not in the mood to try to dive into other In Flames albums. So I listened to it like twice probably, and then it got cataloged. So this preparing for this stream is like the first time I'm really diving in and actually trying to understand this album, and I really liked it a lot. It uh, was a well, it wasn't a pleasant surprise. I knew it was good. I was just not in the mindset when I received it to like fully get into it. But if anything, this stream allowed me to fully enjoy this album, and I think it's one of their most cohesive as an album as a whole. Like it, it really is structured superbly. It definitely is the biggest departure from the Gesture Race. It's a change in logo. Now we have
Yep.
what an it's
The bars.
italicized, and we got the bars. So I mean, it kind of looks lame, but wait till you see what happens next. And I'm not the biggest fan of this album cover. Like it's kind of cool, but in comparison to the Jester Race and um, the next two, I think it's probably my least favorite of the first five. I
Hmm.
guess I'm just not a fan of the Horacle, if you will, spread spouting her madness upon the world.
Yeah.
Um,
She has beautiful eyes, though.
oh yeah, absolutely. Get lost in those. Um, I think the biggest difference is in the songwriting, in that they're now prioritizing um, like a pop songwriting format, which I already mentioned. It's the verse, pre-chorus, chorus, then
Yeah.
repeat. It's not domineering over like the whole album, but
Hmm.
there's a couple songs that uses it to me pretty effectively. Like it opens with the Jotun,
Yes.
and I think that's a great opener. I love the guitar melody that kind of arches through it. It's like inviting, but not
Hmm.
like immediately catchy. Like it's not
Yeah.
too over the top. It's kind of still subdued in a
Which is
way.
sort of the problem for me. It didn't catch me, right? Like it didn't. It's not catchy enough for what it is.
And
Like,
I think I like that. Like it was like pop in flames, but not you know too much sugar on that pop songwriting or that like especially that guitar. And I still think they were trying to figure out how to mesh um, the vocals with the guitar riff. Like the
hmm
chorus I think could have been maybe a little bit stronger. So I give the song a 9, but I think if they had perfected the chorus maybe a little bit more. So when Andrew shouts, Shotan, uh,
Jordan,
I'm trying to
a
see
body
how.
of black that carries no reflection.
Yeah,
Jordan.
yeah. If it had more of a hook
Earthy
to
define its
that,
own room, or something like that. An earthy egg of a decreation.
yep. If it had more of a hook that like really made that chorus stand out, I probably would have given it a 10. Still a 9. I'm definitely a fan of Food for the Gods. For me, it's an 8 though. Dialogue with the Stars, we touched on pretty well. To me, it's the more subdued, laid back version of Wayfarer. It's got great layers to it. When they change it up to an acoustic guitar, which they do, I believe, twice on the song. It's great. I love the overarching motif of the track. Um, Not as crazy about the Hive or morphing into Primal. Something about the intense songs just
Nothing
don't
into primal.
just don't hit me. And maybe it's the production. Like it's not as clear as it becomes on Clayman.
We know this by the animal inside. I don't know. I like
See,
that one.
I don't even know what part that is. I know the morphing into Primal part, but I liked World Within the Margin, and then the closing three songs is actually my favorite close to any In Flames album. To me,
Okay.
it's the best. I think this band, they have trouble sticking the landing sometimes.
They
Like,
have trouble sticking to a sound.
yes, they have a lot of troubles, truthfully. But one of the overarching themes for me is the first half of the album is the better half, and the second half it's kind of starts to drag on just a little bit, and you're not as hooked into the sound as the album ends.
Hmm.
But Horacle to me nails the landing. It's got, it goes from the intense morphing into Primal and the still slightly catchier Worlds Within the Margin into that track that really kind of seals the deal in the songwriting department with episode 666. And then Everything Counts. I think it's a great cover. I really love it.
It's a good cover.
It's a 9 out of 10 for me. I like how they do the clean singing with the harsh over top.
They're grabbing
I
hands, take all they can. Yeah, but
and then I think Horacle is just a nice closing palate cleanse, if you will, to the overall album. It
mhm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it accurately ties up what the album and the concept behind the album wanted to do, and just a great way to end it. So for me, I give this album an 8.4, which I think is essentially what you gave it, right?
yeah, I did 8.45
Yeah, it's funny basically have the same opinion because
on the album,
I rank it 4
but different
as
songs.
well, but
Yeah,
different songs. So we vary wildly on what songs kind of
yeah.
stood out. But as I said, I am still, you know, kind of getting used to this album.
It's sort of funny that they got their pop songwriting format from Depeche Mode, right? Like that's probably why they did that cover.
To me, it seems like it was definitely 80s. I mean, all these bands they were growing up and they were kids during the 80s,
Yeah,
so it makes sense that's when they were ingesting all the pop music. So it was like, of course, the 80s like post punk and new wave, but then also that kind of 80s like hair rock glam metal sound. I think
yeah.
pops up, which we'll talk about another cover that they do with a Swedish 80s hair rock band,
No treat.
Treat, a band lost to the sands of time for sure. So, but there you go. That was Horacle. I wanted to say real quick that the version that I have, which came out on Century Media in 2014, it has a live rendition of Jotun and Food for the Gods. So,
I
but
might like the live version better. I don't know. I'll have to listen to that.
I actually haven't
Sometimes
listened. I
live
haven't listened
matters
to
a
it,
lot.
so we should jam it after this. Um, I wanted to say that there is a version of this album, the Japanese version, that has Black Ash Inheritance on it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so you got a couple options to own.
They do too many reissues.
Yes, it's definitely another theme. I mean, and with each reissue, there's a reworking of the bonus tracks and what else you get with the album. I guess you got to collect them all, or not. I mean, I'm happy with just
Don't.
this, truthfully, uh, but to each their own. All right, so from Horacle of 1997, we jump 2 years ahead to 1999 with the release of their fourth album, Colony.
Hmm.
So I believe, I don't remember if I said what label Horacle. Okay, so Horacle was released on Nuclear Blast, and Colony is also released on Nuclear Blast. So
Hmm.
it was also recorded in Studio Friedman in Gothenburg. And finally, as I said, they switched up the lineup a little bit, and Bjorn is now officially on lead guitar.
Hmm.
And let's see, I believe
Jesper is the other guitar, right?
Daniel Svetsson is now the new drummer for the band.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Peter Iwers, as I said, is now the bass player.
Hmm.
Yeah, Jesper's the rhythm guitarist.
Hmm.
So
And
those are the only notes I think I got for that one.
and can you go through your ranking first?
Yes, I will. I
I'll
will
be right
go.
back.
I will go through my ranking. All right. So Colony. First off, I just want to say I like this album cover the second most up to Jester Race. I even like the logo on this album cover. I think it fits with the futuristic aesthetic and just this like post-apocalyptic, blood-soaked uh, vision we're looking at. So I definitely don't mind it. We have the Jester head once again popping back up, which hadn't been seen since Jester Race. So there is in the blood-soaked water. This definitely seems like a post-apocalyptic album, and it's definitely one of their darker releases as far I think lyrically and kind of musically as well. Um, here you go. In your booklet, I wanted to say that the booklet here features some cool lyrics I like. Species come and go, but the earth stands forever fast. Um, so yeah, Colony itself to me is a pretty big album. It was one of the first In Flames I purchased after that initial bout of like Clayman and Jester Race. It opens up very strong with Embody the Invisible, and it kind of does the same thing that Jotun did on Horacle, where it serves as a statement of purpose for how the band has changed their sound and what they're doing going forward. It's more polished, and that guitar and vocal melding is just perfect on this track. They work in tandem, essentially. Um, Ordinary Story is once again to me another great example of how In Flames is changing and where they're going. I don't like it quite as much as I like Embody the Invisible, but it still to me serves an important purpose. It's a lot more oriented towards that um, dynamic, like uh, soft acoustic guitars and spoken word approach. Um, and it definitely highlights the pop song structure that they're going to start using. Um, but once again, I'm able to follow the songwriting and definitely enjoy it. I kind of like how Ordinary Story ends as well. So to me, that's a good one. Track 4, Colony, is my favorite song on the album and is an absolute barn burner of a song. It just kicks the door in, and it's mainly driven by the riff, and the riff is kind of what segues and moves the song forward from the opening to the verse to the chorus, and towards the end, and that is just such a kick-ass song. That's a 10 out of 10 for me, and one of In Flames' best. I'd put it in a top five if I were to
Is
make a
this
top
Scorn?
five. No, the title track, Colony.
Oh, Colony, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Zombie Inc. is great too, and to me, it continues to maintain that solid songwriting. The guitar melody is once again a highlight, and it just meshes so well with the vocal patterns, and really Anders' vocal performance goes well with everything. Like I just think they excel at combining their guitar oriented songwriting with uh, this new vocal oriented approach. I wanted to mention real quick that the instrumental Paller Anders Visa is once again, it's another old Swedish traditional song. And they kind of picked it because uh, Paller Anders is the name of the old song, and it means Anders, the guy who steals apples. So they picked it because it's Anders' song, and of course he's not featured on it. Then to me, the second half of the album is kind of a little bit of a step down in quality. There there's another rebranding of Behind Space, which I didn't think needed to happen.
Yeah.
Um, it's good. Like I still gave it an 8.
It's the
You know,
same song,
it's
basically.
the same.
I mean,
Yeah,
they get rid of some stuff, clean it up a little bit,
but yeah. They just
which,
they 99 it, right? They
yeah.
they make it current.
Then they
And
have
then
an,
Incepted and New World are good songs, but to me, once again, don't quite measure up to the rest of the album. Uh, and
I
I think
think
it
it's,
shows that In Flames are not quite there with balancing out all of the songwriting and album structure yet.
well, more like they devolved out of that because,
Yeah, that
I mean, they did
into
pretty well in Gesture Race, but then they tried a new, they're just
mhm.
trying new stuff that they aren't familiar with, and then it's not.
Yeah, it's potentially not meshing all the way through.
Hmm.
I forgot to mention Coerced Coexistence is a great song. I definitely
Yes.
like that one. That one I gave a 9 out of 10, and it's another example of this new sound just meshing incredibly well. Overall, I give this an 8.6, and it is my second favorite In Flames album.
Wow. Wait,
It's
didn't you say?
no third. It's my third.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
Jester Race is my second. This is number 3, and then Oracle at 4. And here is the spreadsheet.
Da, da, da. Yeah, reminds me of what I wrote in big words up here. So it's similar to Horacle. They have some more variety on it. They have less of a Jester Race influence, right? It's more just like a continuation of Horacle, but without the Jester Race bits. And yeah, I say the best song on it is a remaster of an older song, which is worse than the original song. So
Oof.
that's
Ouch.
that's Behind Space.
Oh, you don't like Embody the Invisible?
Not really.
I
I
was
mean,
singing. I
I
love
like
that
it,
song.
but it's their new favorite song format. And I think I don't like their catchy pop songs on this one or Horacle because I also gave those catchy pop songs, like the one
Yeah,
that is
lower
literally
ratings.
a catchy pop song
It's
on.
like you're still holding on to the In Flames that was.
Yeah, but this is their one. It becomes like their mainstay format for the next several albums. And Ordinary Story is a great one. I like the catchiness of it and this one. Uh, I like the piano. I think there's some piano in there. Pretty sure there was.
It was Ordinary Story.
Yeah. Scorn. It's right a bit of a breakdown. I'd have to listen to it again. I don't remember what Scorn sounds like, to be honest. Uh, I wrote a bit boring.
It gets a little lost, or you get yeah.
Yeah, Colony has great riffs to it. I don't I don't hear anything that makes it stand apart, right?
See,
To
I just
me.
love that main riff so much. You know,
Yeah, but I don't. If it's just
it's
the main riff.
and how and it will also how they write and structure the song. Like it's got the the more chilled out and like restrained verses, but it goes right into the main riff and it just
Hmm.
picks it up so beautifully. And I like the chorus a lot too, and how they get to the chorus.
It's good. It's an 8, but
Yeah,
8 out of 10.
10.
Zombie Inc. I like it better. I like better. They have better like melodic riffs.
Mhm.
Good solo. I like the vocals more on this one. Power Paula Anders Visa has the best vocals on the album.
Oh yes, yes. That
Yeah.
Apple stealing bastard did pretty good on that one.
Chorus Coexistence is also a great song. Yeah, 9 out of 10. It has a nice echoey. They're playing with some like production stuff with his voice that they'll later go too far with. But I noticed that a lot within Flames, to be honest. Well, they'll play with some elements that are good in moderation, or that I
I
like in
like
moderation, and then that
let's
just
let's do more. Yeah.
yes, Resin. It's just a good song. Not much to say about it. Behind Space, they clean it too much. It's just something about the production, or I guess lack of it, on the original is just really helps with it.
I
I
think
think
so.
I think that may be true of like I wonder what these other songs would sound like with earlier production. Like that's something I think about with some more modern bands is as production gets cheaper and you can more easily just heavily change stuff with the computer. It
But
becomes
it's just a
very
crutch
easy to
more so than
overproduce
anything.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely, definitely in the modern sense. I mean, here I think it just took away some of the you know energy of some of the songs. Maybe
Hmm. We have Insipid 2000, which is they do a bunch of that. I misspelled soaring. I meant soaring, not souring. They also do too much of that in their future work. Uh, the new word is a 7 for me. I like the intro riff. It's sort of standard for the like. It blends in with the rest of the album, really. Man-made God. I like this as an end. Catchy melody,
yeah.
great
And
acoustic bit.
I didn't mention that is a bonus
It's
track,
a real good one,
which
which
is not on my
I
copy.
didn't know.
Yeah.
This was just on the copy I listened to on YouTube or whatever. I don't have any of them except Clayman, I think.
Hmm. So it's a great song for sure. I didn't touch on it, but it's definitely good. So
Hmm.
what's your rating over here?
8 point. Oh, that's because of some construction stuff, but really it's 8.17.
Nice. Yeah. So this is the one of the albums I guess we disagree on just a little bit.
Yes, for me this is
So
rank
what's
5.
rank 5? Wow.
Yeah, I mean I just swap it with Lunar Strain, right? Basically.
Yeah, essentially, because I we both had Jester Races 2, right?
Yes,
Yes, Lunar Strain is
and we
3.
both had
Yeah,
Horacle as 4.
4. Wow. I think we figured it might be kind of like this. It's hard when like you know this band we've both been listening to for about the same amount of time
Hmm.
in the same order. Like I think if we were to
Yes.
track the albums that we approached this band at, they're probably the same.
Hmm.
Swap around, Oracle and Colony maybe, or but yeah, the bias is definitely there. The recency bias or whatever. But enough about Clayman. We're on to the next album. So from
Yeah.
1999, quick turnaround to July of 2000. So they
Yep.
release Clayman, which yeah we both have this one on Nuclear Blast. Um, definitely also another dark album actually when you listen to like it lyrically. Um, there's definitely a lot
Sort
of
of.
depression I feel like in the lyrics, and you're saying there's some hopeful songs, but
Well, a lot of
maybe
it
they,
is
they just
dealing with the
uh
struggles
huh.
and about how you need to like reinvent yourself sometimes.
Hmm. I do like the album cover on here.
Yes. The good old,
Like
what is it, Vesuvian Man? Ooh.
yeah, the Da Vinci, the Vesuvian Man. I think I definitely heard people not talk crap about it, and really about the album overall. But I dig the album cover and just the feel of it. This one is a Nuclear Blast reissue.
Vitruvian
Digi
Man.
Digiback or the Vitruvian Man. Um, yeah, I guess you good with it if I go first on this one.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, it's hard to kind of separate this album from the nostalgia and the initial love that I have with it. Maybe that's just a sign of how good it is. I mean, like for instance, listening to it in preparation for this stream, I had no issue like playing it probably four separate times. And this is an album I've heard, God, too many to count. Uh, so I didn't need to listen to it that many times, but I did it just out of the joy of liking this album. And while listening to it, it really did feel fairly similar to when I first heard it back in high school. I think it's one of those rare albums which kind of really feels a part of my musical DNA. Like
Hmm.
it's the album that helped to show me um, the more extreme side of metal music. Not saying that like this is a super extreme metal album because it's not, but when you're not used to it,
Hmm.
it's a good segue. It's a good transition album to get into the genre. So it kind of showed me how to become more comfortable with harsher vocals, more intense song structures, and yeah, just being able to have the endurance to listen to a full like 40-minute plus album of you know fast paced guitars and some guy screaming over them. So it yeah definitely fairly vital to me. I do really like the songwriting approach overall, and I think that's the magic sauce, if you will, to what makes this album sound as good. It's simple in its approach, but it's so memorable and um, fun. It really helps you become invested, and you start to anticipate where all of the songs are kind of going. You know, um, I think the opening two tracks are a great statement piece. Like up to this point, In Flames have had great opening songs. Bullet Ride and Pinball Map are perfect for this. There's memorable riff writing that are immediately catchy with anthemic choruses. And yeah, I'm still here for both of these. I think of the two, I prefer Pinball Map. And I wanted to mention that a misheard lyric for this song was during the chorus. He says, "And Homer Simpson couldn't fly." So I still hear that to this day, even though the actual lyric is, let me pull it up real quick. Shoot. Who was sent to glorify? I don't know how I got Homer Simpson couldn't fly from that, but ask Anders. That's what he sounds like he's saying. So yeah, great opening. Only for the Weak is just one of those songs that will never get boring to me. Even though maybe it sounds somewhat simple, and I've heard people, decry it for being too commercial. To me, it's infinitely catchy and just demonstrates how good their songwriting is on this album. Definitely a track I'm not bored with. Squared Nothing is the best song on the album. I just love how it builds. It really captures that motif of a guitar riff that really could have been used in some of their earlier albums, and it just repackages it and rebrands it throughout the song. It starts kind of slow and downtuned and bluesier, and then it just gets more powerful as the song builds. And just really that song overall, like the structure and everything, is great. I also really like the lyrics. The chorus, he goes, "Spent some quality time with the demon of mine. He said, I like the way you struggle, but you know I'm gonna win." That kind of sums up like the whole feel of the album, I think, lyrically. And I don't know, it just makes it more emotive and approachable from that perspective. Um, Satellites and Astronauts are great.
Mhm.
I feel like that's a favorite of yours, Mark. So I'll let you wax a bit more poetic on that one. But man, I love that, and really the whole album up to that point is flawless. I don't think I mentioned As the Future Repeats Today or Clayman, but those two songs are also just great and really showcase the more intense side of things, but really more just intense for this album versus for the band overall. There's still like the catchy songwriting and stuff. Um, the final four songs to me are not necessarily as strong, but they still do a great job of closing off the album. Out of these four, Swim is my favorite. I love the overarching guitar melody, and it really just kickstarts the song perfectly. And when that guitar break comes in, where it just plays by itself, man, one of those songs that could give me chills. Um, I could see how certain fans could decry this album, like just to kind of speak on behalf of the rest of the YouTube community that I kind of follow. This is almost mentioned as their black album. Like it's the sellout release for the band, which I mean, you could argue that they started trying to do it earlier on.
They started doing pop stuff on Oracle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, yeah. So
I think this is the
I could
completion
see,
of that.
and that's what I think. I could see how you can make the argument that this is the Black Album just because it comes off more simple and they're exploring a lot more of the dynamic songwriting that they really only hinted at on like Oracle and
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more so on Colony. But I mean, I think it's just kind of perfected. I mean, at the same time, and I will mention this later, I think it kind of signals the doom of the band.
It
Like
does.
maybe in the same way that the Black Album did that for Metallica, this does the same thing for In Flames. But as long as I get to keep this album, I'm happy. In Flames can keep doing what they're doing. Just let me have this album right here.
Yeah.
It's one of those releases that no matter what happens, in life, I think I will have this album with me. Um, there might be like years I don't listen to it, but whenever I do, it kind of transports me back to that time and place of being in high school, still figuring out and understanding what metal and extreme metal was, and it just gives me a fun, memorable metal experience whenever I put it on, and I don't know, it feels like one of those personal albums. For me, it's a 9.5 out of 10. It's not perfect, but man, it's close. And yeah, love this album.
It's a great album.
Yes. Let's see what your thoughts are. Oh, it's number one.
Number
Surprise.
one with a 9.5.
With a 9.5. They after this, they somehow don't surpass it.
Yes. So yeah, it's a shift in album construction, and this, in my opinion, they focus more on the new song construction that they introduced with Oracle, right? And they, to me, they broke out of. I feel like they were sort of. It's not really a rut. We'll figure out what a rut is once I listen to the next stuff. But I listened to this in order, and I hadn't listened to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We haven't gotten to the true rut yet.
Yeah. Which they just weren't groundbreaking, right? Like they weren't like Colony and Oracle did not epitomize a new sound to me.
They just felt more like as transitionary albums alone versus like
yes,
we've stepped in. So do you think this is a transition album at all, or is this the actual like?
Well,
we're here, and this is what we've been trying to do.
I think, to some extent, that's still transitionary, but I think that's true. That this is what they were trying to do, and I think that's also true for the Jester Race. And I also think that's why they change their songwriting and their album logo, is because okay, we finished that part of what we want to make, and we don't want to remake it again. So they then just decide to focus on a new style. Like I think that's to some extent intentional.
You know, you're probably right. I
did
not realize that.
Yeah, they're going to do a new logo on the next album, and it's even more stripped down if that's possible.
Good. Yeah.
But for now, let's focus on this one. Bullet Ride, 10. 10 out of 10. Strong riff straight into it. Great chorus. Incorporates that sort of alternating sort of verse to sort of like, I don't know what the secondary like croaky verse would be that he does. And then they go to like the chorus and then the bridge and then the chorus again, you know. That kind of stuff. It's a great example of that. Pinball Map. It's a 9 out of 10. It's another great song. Like a lot of this is just great song after great song. So to some extent,
absolutely,
it's hard to get standout songs on an album where they're all standout tracks. Yeah. And then we get Only for the Weak, which is like their perfect catchy song. Like there's no problem. Like they don't focus too much on the hook. They still have the great verses. They still have the great bridge. Like,
and I think you summed up the chorus very well too. It's one of those where it brings you in, but then it resolves itself at the end of it.
Yes.
So it's just satisfying to listen to.
He has a very rocky noise to him as well on Rock and Rollish, where he's like, he has in that section.
It's like the gravel, kind of like a gravelly kind of.
I can tolerate your sadness. What was it? Something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can tolerate your sadness.
It's just very. It's not a Melodeath sound.
Because it's me you're drowning.
You're drowning.
I won't allow any happiness.
Yes.
Because every time you laugh.
Motion dark tale. Yeah.
I
I
feel so.
fall behind.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's pretty good. I almost this whole album I can sing to, even the verses, which isn't common, right? The verses will just pop up in my head sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And as the future repeats today, which is great. Square Nothing. I give it an 8.
Ah,
I think it's sort of
another disagreement.
yeah, it's
Have at ye.
it's just there's another one further down with Swim, but
Oh man.
yeah, I think that's because Swim comes after Swim and Brush the Dust Away to me are very similar, and I like Brush the
Hmm.
Dust Away better. Just I maybe just because it comes first, and the, I often just listen to albums all the way through, right? If I
Yeah,
listen
it's
to an
funny.
album.
Like I don't hear that. I hear more of a similarity between like Suburban Me and maybe Brush the
Hmm.
Dust Away. But it's like because Swim is so about that like that guitar, that lead guitar hook.
Mm-hmm. Satellites and Astronauts. Let's go back to like Clayman and Satellites and Astronauts. Great.
Yes.
Clayman, I don't have much to talk about, as you can see. I think to some extent in the middle, I just get tired of writing. But I like it because I noticed that on a few of these where I'll just have something like great riff or wonderful song.
Yeah. It's all right.
But Satellites and Astronauts is a great one from this perspective.
Yeah,
Brush the Dust
the
Away.
lyrics of that song are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brush the Dust Away.
And some of these change up, like they don't, not all of them follow the same song format. They do change it up when it suits the song, but a lot of them do. And it really is their like the pinnacle of that noise I think they were trying to get with like Ordinary Story and some of their other like Jotun and stuff like that. They just nail it with this
It
one.
just yeah, it feels like all the okay. So maybe now I understand why you were let down in ranking those tracks lower because you were just
Yeah, these I guess are just
like
the perfect versions
they
of those tracks.
perfect Ordinary Story on Suburban Me or
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I understand that more.
Another Day in Quicksand I also like a lot. Yeah, for me, this is like a 9.3.
Nice. Yep.
So, yeah,
And
number one.
number one, we are in agreement. Clayman is the best In Flames album.
And I think, for one thing, is Gesture Race is a 9.1 for me, and this is a 9.3. That's a 0.2 difference. That's not terribly far apart, at least for me. Forget what
No,
yours is.
would you? It's a lot different. I mean, like this is up here.
Mm-hmm.
Chester Race is like kind of here. It's I guess it's like 9.5 and Chester Race at 8.8.
Yeah,
So
I think I had that kind of thing for Macedon. The
it's like
Breakfast guy was like
I
way
just can't
above.
warrant. Yeah, I have one too many issues with Chester Race to warrant giving it a 9.
Mm-hmm.
And like yeah, I mean this as I said, it's just easy. Like, do you kind of look back at this as one of those early metal albums for you? Like, I don't know how you view your journey, if you will, or if you've like it's hard not to talk about something like that and not feel like we're talking about like a religion, but we we love metal significantly around these parts, and for me, it does become a little religious, like religious zealotry at
The
times.
Metal Church,
But yes, we are in the metal church, and
the Church of Heavy
we
Metal,
praise in
yes.
flames. But I mean, do you look at this as like one of those that help to push you along the journey? Like, is this one of those formative albums for you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. I mean, yeah, yeah. Definitely. That's a definitely good. That's true, John. That is
we are all in agreement on this stream.
they just I feel we'll talk about that more with the next album. But yeah, they peaked here. It was it's probably always been my favorite In Flames album, right? Because
Me too.
I got into this one in Gesture Race at around the same time. And Gesture Race definitely grew on me. Like this one to me, I instantly loved it. Gesture Race, I had to listen to it a lot more to really start liking it. Right.
That's that's exactly it. Really, I mean,
And
and that's why, yeah, Clayman's just stuck with me. We're just erased. It's like I was still trying to figure out how to listen to it like a year or two after I first heard it.
they only did this for a year. They only had like a year
Yeah.
from Colony.
So this was '99, I believe May, and this is July of 2000.
Wow. Maybe
So
they just need to not think about their songs as much.
just yeah, stop writing. Just play what you want to play
Yeah.
versus what you think
I think they were too
will
focused
make
on
you
trying
money.
to invent new sounds, right? Because I think they were actively trying to change themselves on purpose. Like I feel like
During
they're
this time period or
always. I still think they're
always.
doing
Yeah.
that, and I think they were at the time as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because to some extent, that's why Jesper founded this band, right? Like he wasn't satisfied with the sound, so he wants to reinvent the sound, and to some extent, maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
just the whole In Flames saga is because they're not satisfied with their current sound. So,
I mean, if that's
but
how it's left, that's not bad. I could get behind that because no band changes quite as much as In Flames. It's funny, like we're about to talk about all these albums which are now subpar, but guess what? They still change throughout all of these albums.
yes,
Like if they were trying to get into like a comfort zone and just rehash the same album, they could have done that.
they
But
don't.
they didn't. They don't. They keep changing, and oftentimes for the worse. And it's just weird. It's a weird.
He's like a dog.
Yeah.
Like they see as something to focus on, and then they go straight for that genre, and then they focus straight on that songwriting technique, and then they get bored with that and do a different variation of it, and then they do another one, and then they go from metalcore to new metal to alternative metal to
Yes. So
whatever
I
the
will
hell they
say,
are now.
I will say, up to this point, their transitions and the changes that they're making album to album, for the most part, they sound very linear. I think there's definitely a jump, as you said here,
Mm-hmm.
that might not be as linear, but the other releases they definitely sound like they make sense linearly. And the one we're about to talk about, I can see it making sense linearly. So
To me, it's a jump, and I think the linear ones are when they
it's
stick to the album, the
mhm.
logo, and then the jumps are when they switch to the new logo.
Okay. I guess I could see that. But here, let me go and save my piece. I did fill out all the spreadsheets as well. For the rest of this stuff, I really do not own it, so I will be using the spreadsheet for the visual side of things. I do have my track ranking over here. Yeah, this is a tough one for me. It's really hard not to listen to this album and be immediately disappointed. And it's not really the album's fault. it's how it was released. I mean, it's following up an album I gave a 9.5. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it really is a drastic departure. I mean, I could see how they get there, but from Clayman, you really don't want to see it. You're not envisioning this album as what's coming up next,
Yes.
because it really is such a departure in a couple different places. The whole songwriting approach is more even more stripped down, more simplified, more focused
Mainly
on lyrical and vocal arrangements and building up to a chorus, less focused on guitars,
let's
and
focus on melodies.
especially the guitars don't have any melodies here, really.
Yes.
Like,
It's all just chuggings and
yeah, I
my
don't
God.
know where they picked that up from. I don't know if that was just the time. I mean, this came out. Let me give a little bit of a of an intro to it. This did come out September 3rd, 2002. Um,
Yeah, they have 2 years.
yeah, 2 years on this one. Still on Nuclear Blast. I do not believe they're in the same studio that they recorded their other album, Studio Freedom. It just says it was recorded with Daniel Bergstrand, so definitely a different producer. Um, the compositional credits all Bjorn, Jesper, and Anders.
It's all
So
the same people.
all the same people. The ones who wrote our favorite albums are now writing this, and just
Mm-hmm.
2 years separated.
And that's one reason why I sort of when you said like the people on the band change a lot, is because the people writing the music,
Don't.
even for their worst stuff, well, not their worst stuff, I guess, but
We're not yet. We're not there yet. not
what I
there
wish
yet.
was their worst stuff.
Yep, I think when I was first, it was funny. When I first heard this, I had this ranked low at the very bottom more than anything. But this one actually has climbed my ranking the most out of any of the albums. Not that that says much, but
Yeah.
like it's a lot higher. So
Yeah.
Because the people who were writing it, they kept going down this track.
Mm-hmm. It's just I don't like the design on this album. Like,
I don't like it either.
The sound design, the production design, the art cover design is terrible.
Yep. Art quality is a 5. I probably should give the art quality a 4 or a 3. I mean, it's like the worst
sort of like
2000s turn of the century album cover.
Yeah, they do that.
The CGI album cover. I mean, like, Clayman is like, that's cool. Like, that's hand drawn. I mean, maybe a little digital nuance there, but to me, the only good part about the cover is actually the like, I don't know. I like the color that they used for the name and the title of the album.
You got to really reach for that.
Yeah, and then also how it says 14 songs of conscious insanity. Like, that's kind of cool. I'll give him some credit for that. Is that kind of cringe? It could be kind of cringe also.
I don't like that. Also, 14 songs is too many. This is like
Jesus Christ, yeah.
12 minutes longer than Clayman.
So this is when everything kind of jumps the shark. All like the songwriting issues we talked about jumps the shark, but then also the length of time and track listing does. 14 songs, 53 minutes or something like that. 50 almost 52 minutes. But yeah. And they stick with this amount of songs and like this albums that are this long, kind of from here on
Yeah,
out. And you're like, just give me a 40-minute album, please. But
they don't.
so, no, they do not. Uh, so yeah, I just do not like the elements that kind of make up this album. They all kind of sound disjointed, and the production kind of sucks too. The drums are really loud in the mix, and the crash cymbals and the hi hats kind of bleed over into other instruments, and the vocals especially. So my initial like take was I'm blaming two things for the downfall of this album. First, it's the success and just where they thought that they succeeded with only for the week. I just feel like they're still trying to recreate certain aspects to it, or maybe trying to conform to where they thought the scene was going, which is more chorus driven music. And then I think the band that was kind of leading the charge into more chorus driven music was Soilwork. They have a great singer. Bjorn Strid is his name, and he's a phenomenal clean singer. And there's a lot of great Soilwork albums that I enjoy. The Living Infinite, especially, but Anders is not Bjorn. He cannot
No.
he cannot carry that song, and I think a lot of these choruses and the melodies that they want him to sing are more designed for someone of that caliber and not Anders. So
He needs he
mm,
like they've gotten rid of all the vocals where he would do that sort of like versey, like almost rhythmic back and forth stuff. Now it's just one tone choruses and one tone verses.
yeah, and
Like
even like during the verses, he's more trying to sing through them versus like whispering or even
it varies.
mumbling.
Sometimes he does his croakiness stuff. I still hear that every once in a while.
The
Like I
croakiness
think
works.
Metaphor has it.
Yeah. Um. So let's see the opening title track. I like the intensity of it. There's actually a good guitar riff. It's chuggy. It doesn't have the same melody, but I don't know. It's still cool. It's to the forefront. And the chorus, though kind of awkward, is still memorable. That's the only song that I give an 8 on this album. System, I think, just shows everything I was just complaining about. I still give it a 6. So that means it's still a listenable song. I hope everyone is aware that when you're looking at these rankings, this music is still
A 5 is a
it's still
5. Like
good.
that's middle of the ground. That's
It's still listenable. It's just this is not the In Flames that we're used to. So it's a big step down. Trigger and Cloud Connected are the two singles on the album, and I like both choruses, but for the rest of the song, I really get nothing out of them. Trigger's chorus especially is good. I really enjoy that. Um, Dawn of a New Day is my least favorite song on the album,
yep.
and does absolutely nothing.
It's
I could
just
maybe
too
give it
long.
lower than a 5. Yeah. Minus is a good song, and I kind of forget these other ones. Metaphor and Black and White, I actually enjoy how the album ends. They're more,
Metaphor
um,
sounds almost Red Hot Chili Peppers is. Do you
yeah.
notice that? Yeah.
I would not have mentioned them specifically, but there's definitely a different sound to it that I don't hate. So it's not like I am just hating on. I'm hating on the songwriting choices. I'm just saying that these are at least more interesting songwriting choices at the very end, and they're more of like that ballad-esque song, choice,
Hmm.
but they feel like more cohesive songs versus like, oh, here's the chugging guitar part, here's the more down tuned verse, and then here's our soaring chorus. It actually flows well for a song. So
Hmm.
yeah, those Those are good. I give those a 7 out of 10, and that kind of leads us with the final thought for me. I initially and like still when I think about this album, I cringe at it, but it's one of the stronger albums from this second half of the In Flames catalog. I give it a 6.2. So
All
let's
right.
see what Lunar Stein has to say.
We have a new band logo, which fits into my theory of In Flames reinventing themselves with new band logos every time they try to change their sound. Uh, and then, yeah, too many. I already said most of this stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the choruses are all the same and just repetitive. And Reroute to Remain, the chorus is too awkward for me. Like it's just sick. I have it as a 6 out of 10.
It's
Right. I don't
yeah,
like
that
the chorus.
chorus is it just kind of comes out of nowhere.
You're right about the chugginess and the energy to it, but I just can't get through Anders' vocal delivery on this song. Right. System I like. I have that as an 8. Has some
That
synth
was
in there.
that was
I
an
like the
annoying
energy.
song.
It has some clean vocals. I like the vocals on
Ah,
this one. Yeah. Drifters, good. I stop. This is when I stop writing down stuff, and then I don't write down anything for like the rest of the albums. But maybe one or two songs. Trigger, Cloud Connected to me is a better version of Trigger. It has also some like
the
higher pitched or
mhm.
like da da da. What's that backline thing? Background stuff that you have on Cloud Connected.
Oh, like the little techno
Yeah,
melody. Yeah,
that
yeah.
thing.
I think the verses in the rest of the song are stronger,
Hmm.
but I just like the chorus better on Trigger.
Mm-hmm. Transparent. It's a 6. I barely remember what that one is. Dawn of the Dune Day, I agree, is sort of bad almost. Like,
Yeah,
it's not bad sound wise, but it's so long that you just want to skip it because it's just, you know how long it's going to take and you just are tired of it. So, like, within the first 30 seconds. So, you, so it's not good. Uh,
no,
Economic, I really liked it after Dawn of the New Day. Honestly, it was refreshing. But I say it's sort of alt rocky to me. The choruses, at least, they start doing that with their choruses. Uh, okay, minus is okay. Dismiss the Cynics is a 6 for me. Free Fall's a 7. The rest of them are 6s.
yeah.
To me, Black and White is basically, maybe it's because it's the last one on the album,
You
but
did
it's like
right.
the most repetitive.
Uh huh.
It's like the most repetitive of that songwriting format that they do, which they did that on Clayman, but this in this case they just strip all the good parts out, basically.
I mean, that's some of the stuff they were already doing on
Yeah,
Clayman. They're just now doing it a lot worse.
they're
It
just
just sounds
stripping out all the
worse. Yeah,
instrumentation that's good
yeah.
and leaving just the bare.
It's
Well,
like it's
yeah,
like they're taking apart a puzzle. Like
yep.
Clayman's completed, they're just piece by piece removing it.
I guess it's like I think this is I have this ranked 10, so it has to be below a 6.5
Mm.
just because of the album artwork quality and the production. So it's a 6.3 basically, 6.27.
So yeah, I ranked this one at 8, and it's 6.1.
Yeah,
So
I have this ranked lower. I wonder what I put above it that you
yeah, I'm
didn't because
curious too because like initially, as I said, I had this one ranked as low, but when I kept getting new album after, getting to the next albums, I was like, oh my God, maybe
Like, I
reroute,
mean,
maybe reroute is not as bad as these.
I will say, like, below a 7 is the low, like, from one band that's very low for me on these album rankings. I have a few other ones floating around. Like, you saw the Mastodon one, but I also have some other bands I like
Yeah.
on spreadsheets.
Mm-hmm. So below a 7 is low, right?
For
That's
an
what you mean.
album
Yeah.
is, well, for bands I like,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. So it's like we chose to
We chose
rate.
to finish through the rest of the discography, even though
Yep.
it's below the sort of stuff I like limiting myself to. Like, I
Yep.
can listen and even sort of enjoy it, but I know there are better albums that I'll enjoy more. So why should I listen to this one?
So that's like an excellent question. Like at the end, we should try to answer that. Like, why did we subject ourselves to this whole experience? Because we could have just been like, hey, early in Flames
To me, it's
ranking.
because I'm a completionist.
That would probably be my answer as well.
Yeah.
I'm a completionist, but then
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like there's a little glimmer of hope of like,
True.
this band does mean a lot to me, and certain albums of them does mean a lot. And I'm already familiar with some of their latter era material. It's not the biggest chore to flesh it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear like a
Really,
London
really,
single and stuff.
we'll get to the worst part. Let's keep jumping. Let's keep diving along. So Reroute to Remain, 2002. We jumped 2 years later. Soundtrack to Your Escape, their seventh album. Once again released on Nuclear Blast. Same producer, not produced at Studio. What, Freeland? What was the name of that studio?
Fredman
Fredman.
or Friedman, I don't know.
Yeah, Swedish studio. Yeah. Supposedly, it was this album right here was received better than Reroute to Your Remain, but I would kind of try to explain that. Like when I first listened to this album, I liked it better than Reroute to Your Remain because I listened to the Reroute and I'm like, this sounds so subdued and so scaled back, and the guitars don't have as much of a role. Just somebody give me something. So then I hear Soundtrack to Your Escape, and once again the guitars seem a little bit more upfront in the mix and like more of a focal point for the songwriting. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. But then I'm actually now trying to dive into the album, and there's really not much to dive into. It's a fairly innocent and just kind of their album. It has like two different types of pacing, and that's it. Like it really does not do much for me. There's one good song that I give an 8. That's of course the opening song, "Fiend Friend." What a great song title. Everything else is just like a variation of what that track did. And this is also when I think they finally sound like a metalcore new metal band. Like I think they're really trying to ape what is
They
currently.
completed the metamorphosis.
Yep, this is what was big in like the early 2000s and what's coming up in 2004. They upped the intensity, but they downplayed the memorability. Like hell, at least Reroute to Remain was memorable. Like there was mistakes, but I remember them. I can go back to them, and
That's true.
yeah, I can't remember like jack shit off this album. I can remember the first two songs right now, and that's it. Um, the Quiet Place is probably the only other one I'd recommend actually checking out. I mean, you can see I gave Dead
You have a
Alone a
lot of
7.
sixes.
Yeah, they just all do the same thing. I mean, realistically, maybe these should be 5s down here as it gets towards the bottom, but I don't know.
I
It's not
think
it's not like it's any weaker. It just does the same exact thing as the song before. The same fucking thing. I'm like, it's kind of. I remember you were listening to this earlier. You were like,
mhm.
"Oh, I'm still on this track." I was like, "No, you're actually 2 tracks ahead on this one."
We were on Touch of Red, and I was like, "Isn't this just the Quiet Place?" And it was like,
It could be. So
uh,
yeah, no, all the songs. There's just 10 different songs on here that are all different variations. They all open up with an intense wall of sound, and then there's a break for Anders to kind of try to introduce himself as the singer before the intensity comes back. And they still have the clean sung choruses, but the production is still fucked up here to me. Like it's a wall of sound, and
yeah.
the guitar, everything just overshadows everything else, and they're all competing for the same space. So some of these choruses might actually be good, but you can't really make them out too well because of the wall of sound effect.
Hmm.
I mean, it's brick walled, you know. Um, I feel like this is also kind of a reactionary album meant to be an apology for Reroute, but I think they misinterpreted what the problems with Reroute were, and they're like, "Oh, you didn't like the choruses. Let's just give you more guitars that all sound the
Yeah.
same, and that's it." And they're just being heavy for the sake of being heavy. Um, yeah, "Friend" is the one song that I think is actually good. I maybe would want to revisit, and maybe "The Quiet Place" as well. Honestly, just after track 5, "Liked You Better Dead," it just gets monotonous,
I think to
and
some
I'm out.
extent,
Yeah.
you lack a lot of patience for albums. Like,
Oh,
if it doesn't catch you
Mark,
in
you're
the
hurting
middle,
me.
you're just gonna.
You kidding? Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's important to have a compelling middle section.
That's true. It is. It is.
That's good album writing right there, maybe.
Hmm.
But I give this one a 5.5, and it comes up as number 10.
Hmm. If you had only said that for this one, but you also said that for Gesture Race, which was,
What about
I
the?
disagree with about the end being dragging on, like, because you always would always skip to Goliaths and disarm their Davids, right? But
Well, but that was because
yeah,
I
that's
was.
because of
Yeah,
context.
yeah.
I don't know.
This one to me, man, I just zone out. Oh, you were
Yeah,
actually taking notes the whole time.
no,
Well, I mean,
I
there's
just
just
wrote
like
stuff.
you could tell I got like burnt out. I just gave them all 6s. I was like, this is the same.
I didn't get. I don't remember it well, actually. So yeah, I agree with you where like I can't really remember the songs, but I wrote these numbers after listening to while listening to each song. It was like my gut number, like I always rank them against each other. Like, would I skip this one to listen to the next one and that kind of stuff. So they're it's sort of like up and down, up and down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go too in depth to it, but it's like 7, 8, 7, 6. It goes up and down, up and down. There's a 5, there's a 4, there's
See, we've
it's
reached the
all over
rapid
the place.
fire. This is the rapid fire segment of the show. We're
Yes.
just
Yeah. Here, yeah, the overarching points I have for the album, which I guess here it's let me slide this over. I like the sound better, mainly because it's true, they get rid of their bad choruses, but they can do I know they can do good choruses because they had them on Clay Band. So there's a lack of a good vocal performance, though. Yeah, that's definitely true.
I felt there was more overall songwriting on Reroute. Like
The songwriting's boring though, but
it's at least
that's
more
true.
memorable. It's more unique
The choruses are more
than this.
memorable, but the choruses are also bad. So I
Ah,
don't know. To me, this is eighth. I guess I switched this with Reroute to Your Main. So
it's funny. Yeah. And what
yeah,
you
this
give
is a
it a
6.5.
6.5.
Yeah, 6.5.
There you go. All right. So that was Soundtrack to Your Escape 2004, and we are moving right along to the next album, Come Clarity, in 2006. This is the eighth album, and it was released in February of that year, also on Nuclear Blast, but I believe with Ferret as a label as well. Which, believe it or not, that's a big metalcore label. So take note. Ferret Music, they have like bands, or back in the day they had like Every Time I Die and um, more like some more of the Christian metalcore scene, I believe.
Okay.
Hopes Fall. Um, yeah, and sorry, we're yeah, okay. Um, to me, this album they definitely start to dive into that full like 2006 metalcore sound, which for those who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm definitely thinking Shadows Fall, uh, All That Remains, probably Lamb of God in there. Um, just a wide variety of what you could find in Hot Topic at the time. And I think they really were trying to appeal to that audience, that crowd. And do they succeed? To me, I think they do. Like this is the first song and album that I guess I became aware of this band with Take This Life, which as I said appeared in Guitar Hero 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I met like swoopy haired high school kids who were my age, you know, who liked In Flames, or they liked this In Flames. They if you asked them like what they thought about Horacle, they'd be like, what'd you call me? But like this they actually like and kind of worshipped this album and viewed it entirely different. So a whole new wave of In Flames fans, I think, kind of started because of this album. And maybe they started because of the other two. I haven't run across anyone who's like, oh yeah, soundtrack to your escape was the album that clicked for me. But I've definitely run across a bunch of people where this album um, was it. And really, I'm just happy to be talking about an In Flames album one more time where I have probably more good things to say than bad. Like I do like a lot of this album. There might be some nostalgia with this as the during the process of getting into this band, I dove into more of the singles and stuff of this album and found myself a lot more comfortable with Take This Life already talked about, but the single Come Clarity I think is great. I think it's a solid ballad. Um, the single Crawl Through Knives I absolutely love. To me, it's the best song on the album. Um, and probably the most reminiscent of like an older sound of theirs. Like it's got that fast-paced guitar with an overarching guitar melody that is definitely reminiscent of a more 90s sound. And it's actually got a good, clean sung chorus, which I want to quickly say that I think this is where Anders sounds the best as a clean singer. I mean,
Hmm.
I think Take This Life sounds great. Leeches is not as good.
Yeah.
Um, I think he sounds great on Come Clarity during the chorus part. I was already telling you this earlier, but I do not like how he sounds during the verse. But the chorus and the guitar work is so good on that song. I forgive it. Um, Already mentioned Crawl Through Knives. I think Versus Terminus is a great song too.
Hmm.
The one song that kind of pisses me off a little bit is the closing song. Your bedtime story
Yeah.
is scaring everyone. It's a 5 minute song, and it's like 3 minutes of just a more ambient buildup. 1 minute of like screaming in more in like a slow doomy fashion, which kind of just comes out of nowhere. And then he just whispers, "Your bedtime stories are scaring everyone," and what this the sins of man, or I don't even know what else he says.
It's
The evil that man does. I don't know, but it's kind of it makes me think of like the where In Flames is going, you know, which is the oddly like it feels somewhat pretentious, but it kind of is not. It's just not good.
well, yeah.
I mean, I still like parts of it. I gave it a 6, so
I mean, pretentious is not good.
yeah. But like, you can be pretentious and be right about things, but if you're
Well,
pretentious and wrong, then
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
that's
definitely
right.
not. That's like a double
Like
whammy.
if something, yeah, I don't know. There are some things that are like they're not pretentious, but pretentious people may like highbrow stuff. I don't know if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Well, it
But it's
feels
not
like they're
like they're
trying to be
trying to be
highbrow.
pretentious. But yeah, this is pretentious is when you're trying to do that. Well, I don't know what it means exactly, but yeah, it's you're right.
I feel
It's
like they're trying to be more like ooh, a cool ambient
they're trying to
closer.
be emo and what
Okay, there,
whatever
yeah,
that is.
there.
Yeah,
This is definitely
they keep
a
doing that.
metalcore adjacent album, if not a metalcore album. I mean, I fall in that generation of metalheads like getting into this genre in the late 2000s, early 2010s, where you know you had to listen to Killswitch Engage and you had to listen to Shadows Fall.
And I
So
think
this does not offend me, and I like a lot of it. And as I said, I'm just happy to be praising an In Flames album
what yeah,
currently.
and then you have what was it 7.5?
Yeah, that's my overall rating for this. So
Okay.
7.5 is the rating, and it stacks in at six overall.
Wow.
So, and we're off to Mark. Let's see what he thinks.
Yes. So I did not get into kill switch engage and that kind of stuff when you did, right? I don't think I've ever been into them. I think I've listened
Yeah,
to some of their stuff, but I
no love
never
for As I Lay Dying or
no. I
August
mean,
Burns Red or anything.
this is like the best version of that stuff they pull off. Like it's the best version of Rewriter. I think this is the best. This is what they're leading to with the previous two albums, and it's the
So then
best
we're
combination of
kind of in
the.
agreement then, right? Like I think where
Yeah,
they're finally sticking what they want. Which, by the way, what's the logo?
it's still the same for the previous two.
I wonder if they change it.
They do. They perfect the sound that they were trying to get to, and then they change the logo again. Which you know,
Can't wait to get to that.
it's funny. I I really there's a really funny thing that happens where they change it and they go back to the previous one. But
They did all they could do.
yeah, they were like, oh, that's a step too far. Siren Song. But they have, yeah, this is, I like the song construction. It's better than the previous two albums. It is, as you said, it's that kind of music. I already forgot, what is it, metalcore? But I don't know why I can't keep that in my head. But I have not listened to that much. This is Take This Life is a good intro. Leeches, I couldn't get into much. It's a 6 for me. Reflect the Storm is a 7. I wrote some stuff for Dead End. Dead End's an 8. I basically only wrote stuff for 8s and above. Come Clarity is a good one. Scream, I'm not the biggest fan of. Vacuum is good. Placing Death's Trail, eh. Crawl Through Knives is another good example of what they did well on this album. Versus Terminus is decent. And then this ending I sort of couldn't really connect with. 6 is all the way down. Logan's not here. I'm just reading the YouTube comments while I'm waiting for Logan to come back. Oh, there you are.
What'd I miss?
I just went over the stuff. I have a few 8s.
And that's it.
Come Clarity, Dead End, and Crawl Through Knives. Everything else was like 7s and 6s, and then we have 5 from Scream.
Yeah, Scream was. I didn't give it a 5, but it was definitely
yeah,
cringy track.
It's for me, the rankings I guess is 6.9. Just below a 7.
Okay.
And I think to some extent that's just because I could never get into metalcore, right? I don't know.
Yeah, so you were like not as taken by like Take This Life with that whole
it's good.
That chorus
Take
build
this
up.
life, here I am. I'm not gonna if it comes up in like
you wouldn't skip it.
This one and maybe the past 2, I could maybe get like a compilation mix with all the best songs, like 8 or 7 songs on it. I probably could like that a lot.
To $5 for this, maybe, depending on what else was in the room. That was goodbye, yeah. But up to 5, no more than that. The other 2, I would maybe drop up to 3.
Mm-hmm. As for overall album ranking, it's 6. It's the same as yours.
Yes. So we're in agreement that this is now the pinnacle of the modern era, the post 2000s in Flames.
Which for me is under a 7.
Yeah.
It's 6.9. So
man,
it's only down from here.
So this is it. We're starting the downward trajectory. I mean,
yep.
Yeah, let's see what's next. So from 2006, we once again jumped 2 years. 2008, still on Nuclear Blast.
First Blonde.
This is the last one, yeah. So he was up through this album, and I think he would still have like main songwriting credits.
He would, yeah. I think his main reason for leaving was because he wanted to focus on his family or something like that.
That could mean anything, though.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
that's what I read like an article or something.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing too much else to say outside of like, yeah, this is the departure of Jesper.
New logo
and
new album
and the beginning of the new logo. Okay, so I don't know if we mentioned the album artwork of the previous one. I like that one. I liked it. I actually gave that one a 8 for the quality.
I gave it an 8 as well, actually.
Yeah, like that's a cool album. You know, this though, I do not feel the same about. This is like
It
straight up like fucking Bring Me the Horizon,
reminds me of
Devil
that.
Wears Prada bullshit. This is some fucking
What is
Christian
that?
metalcore stuff. Slap this on a youth group, like a kid going to youth groups T-shirt,
Yeah. It
and
reminds me of what's that like cartoon? Where the Wild Things Are or something.
yeah,
Do you know
but
that book? Like,
it's like Where the Wild Things Are crossed with like an edgy Marvel comic from
well, for me, it's Where the Wild Things
2000.
Are crossed with teenage angst, pure and unadulterated.
That works too. That's also what like Marvel was doing back in, you know, the late 2000s was the emo teenage angst. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I am not a fan of this album cover, and really, I don't know what they were trying to do. This is one of the weirder transitions for me. I think you can only sum it up by saying alternative metal.
Yeah.
Like, this is where they definitely feel more like they're exploring and playing around with certain sounds that are just bigger in bands like Breaking Benjamin or um I don't want to drop too many more like shitty ones because but like Chevelle or like more like the guitar melodies are more in the backdrop still. Like it's not a guitar riff, it's just a guitar melody.
Hmm.
And it's more like the songs themselves are just focused on getting to the chorus. So I think initially when I first listened to this, I was like, oh, this sounds cool. But
Yes,
the more I've thought about it, it's yeah.
I
Ah,
agree.
here's what I said. I said, welcome to alt flames. Huh. Um they just abandoned the more aggressive tendencies for just a rock oriented sound that relies on that underlying guitar melody. And it really does not sound like In Flames anymore. Like I feel like I could still hear some In Flames on Come Clarity. Maybe not as much on soundtrack, but yeah, I don't know. It's outside of Anders' vocals and certain guitar melodies, and maybe the solos. The guitar solos might still be there and be good and be a strong part of the song, but it just does not sound as much like In Flames. Um, there's still metalcore guitar chugs, and they're mainly just writing to get to the chorus. Let me talk a little bit about the tracks themselves. I think Alias is actually a good song. Like, I actually really like the chorus of Alias and
Yes.
just how they structure it. I actually enjoy I'm the Highway too. Um,
Hmm.
outside of that, there's some that kind of like play with the same ideas that those two songs were doing and succeed. Like I like Delight in Angers apparently, but then after The Chosen Pessimist, I kind of check out. Like The Chosen Pessimist is okay. It's like somewhat boring, but then at the same time, it's 8 minutes long and it doesn't feel like it's 8 minutes. It's kind of like that ballad
Hmm.
of the album, and there's some symphonic elements here, and kind of like the swelling to final section of the song that really makes it better. But it still kind of signals the last part of the album I actually kind of care about, and then I'm just kind of more checked out. And like it sounds okay, but it just doesn't sound memorable to me. So to me, this is right at a 6 out of 10. Like it's fine, it's okay, but just it doesn't do much really for me, and it's my ninth in my ranking.
Hmm. All right. So we got a new band logo. Oh boy. I
Congrats.
love the font they picked.
It's it's like a
Yeah.
splatter, like sewing,
Yeah.
like
It's
sewing
like
splatter.
a dripping like paint, like they used some. It was too warm when they spray painted it on, but so it dripped down. Anyway, I like some of the instrumentations. There's some like interesting like da da dum dum like sounds like on the mirror's truth is sort of good.
I,
It's a
I did
7.
I did like that song. I think I gave it a 7 too.
Alias I like. Uh, Move Through Me 7. Chosen Pessimist it's a 7 because any song that can make you listen to 8 minutes without realizing how much time has passed is like
See,
just because I didn't want to
that's
skip it.
fair.
It's a 7 to me, right? Like
Hmm.
it kept my attention while I was listening to it, right? Sober and Irrelevant is irrelevant. Condemned is okay. Drenched in Fear is okay. March to the Shore. I think I'd rate this a little higher than you, but Delight and Angers for me is a 4. Like
Oh,
I really didn't like that much. Like I
I don't. I think I gave that a 7. I don't remember it right now. What was the?
disconnected. I think it's like the chorus or the hook or something, but
It just falls flat.
it just doesn't. Well, it does. It's worse than falling flat. It irks me. It makes me
Mm.
annoyed with it. I just don't like the sound. Like actively dislike, which is it's one of the first songs that I active. Did I do a 4 somewhere
I don't
else?
think so.
Yeah, Superhero of the Computer Rage. I also dislike, probably because of the pun, which I absolutely hate. But
No
computer
puns.
age. But this is 6.4, which comes in at rank 9 under Soundtrack to Your Escape, above Reroute to Your Main,
Ah, so we have the same ranking for that one.
which is interesting because Reroute to Your Main is just, I guess, it's just more bland, but and also bad production and bad artwork. But
Yeah, I still feel like soundtrack is the most bland
yeah,
up to this point. But all right, so we're jumping from Sense of Purpose, which let's sorry real quick. I just remembered you mentioned this earlier. The album titles are now too long.
they have been for a long time.
They're,
Yeah,
yeah, they have
it's
been since Clayman. They're now too long. That's another thing that bothers me.
yeah,
I shouldn't have to be like, oh, this album soundtrack to a playground
sounds to a playground fading,
purpose.
and you
Yeah,
can't even do like a stop or whatever stop
yeah.
stopf stop.
I mean, this is one of the worst offenders for sure. Sounds of a playground fading.
They sort of
I do not like
finished
that as
that.
an album title.
They shortened them again, but the albums are way worse. So
You're right. So maybe we should just be thankful for what we get. So yeah,
that's
so
saying something to be way worse than a 6 out of 10. But
it is possible. So yeah, we're up to album number 10. Um,
Jesper
released June
Stromblad is not
15th,
on it.
2011. This is the first one without Jesper, and that's a big deal for this band
Hmm.
because he was the
He's the
only
founding
original
member,
the
basically.
founding member, and it's big that he would step away and essentially stay away. I mean, we're a decade past this album at this point, so he doesn't want back in. But yeah, so this is the album that I came into kind of like buying In Flames, and I bought this right when it came out,
Hmm.
and that was the one time I was like, I'm an In Flames fan. I need to buy the new In Flames album. I essentially, immediately realized I fucked up and ended up selling this and then rebuying it because there are some songs on here that I really enjoy, and I think this album overall is a nostalgic listen and does hold a place in, you know, what I feel is my musical history and kind of like just enjoying this genre with my brothers. You know,
Mhm.
both you and Parker. I I can think of, you know, us listening to this
Yes.
album throughout our, you know, our high school years essentially. Um,
It's definitely a nostalgia album for me,
yeah,
especially once I re-listen to it. I, you know,
like did was it because it like didn't hold up, or because you were like, oh, I remember, I
well, you
remember.
both of those because I
Yeah,
remember it, but also it for me nostalgia. I guess I have nostalgia for Clayman, but it's still just as good as I remember it being, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So for me, nostalgia is when it's like you're blinded by your reminiscing almost.
So this is more of the true
Yeah,
nostalgia of
this
like,
is it's nostalgic to listen to.
yeah, maybe this wasn't as good as I initially thought. Which for
Yeah.
me, from the word jump, I was not necessarily a fan. I liked the first two songs. I kind of still like the first two songs, but yeah, it just doesn't necessarily hold up after that. Even like the opening track, "Sounds of a Playground Fading," is not not great in the chorus department. Like it's okay, and like I enjoy the opening and like the industrial tinged guitar riffing that comes in on this album. And this is definitely an industrial tinged album. They use some like techniques of, I don't know, like I'm not sure what kind of like synthesizer or keys they use to create some of these sounds, but it's all over this thing. Deliver Us is probably one of the better tracks. I'm glad they used that as the lead single because it's partially what inspired me to buy this album. I like the more groove oriented and driving verses of it. And then also the chorus is just good. I think it's a solid chorus. Um, and then we get to some songs I'm just not as crazy about. I do not like All For Me. The puzzle's good. Fears the Weakness kind of annoys the shit out of me with it sounds great in the beginning. There's the cool guitar melody.
Fear is the
Eh,
weakness to all our thoughts. Dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun, dun,
even
dun.
that part is cool, but then there's just this clean sung verse that just annoys,
Far
bugs the
too
shit out of
long.
me. Um, the Dead Ships Dwell. That was one of the singles, and I actually don't like it all, except this one sound that comes in the verses. It's like this weird distorted like
Mm. Hmm.
whirring noise. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah.
actually, it sounds kind of like dystopian and like just dark and edgy. But then the
Hmm.
rest of the song is just eh. But that's why I
A
gave
lot
it.
of this album
That's why I
is
gave it a 6 because of
sort
that
of
one sound.
industrial dystopian. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a dark album. I think that's also why I'm gonna rank it the way that I do, and it's not just because of the nostalgia, but I think cohesively it fits with this theme, and it overall is dark. You know, um,
Hmm.
the attic is cool as an instrumental. No, as an interlude. Sorry, he's there's an old man singing or mumbling on the track,
There's
and
an old man always watching me. I've never really seen him. I think he stays in there all day.
I think he works all day. Yeah. Um,
Yes.
the guitar work is very like bluesy and subdued, and I just think it's cool, and it fits well on this album. Um,
Hmm.
Rope's best song on the album, mainly because of that opening and that just guitar that just shines like a beacon. It's just a beautiful lead guitar that is like the main focal point of the song. Outside of the
Hmm.
chorus, which is like it's okay, but like I just like the guitar work, and the chorus isn't bad. It's good. It's definitely up there with the chorus for "Deliver Us." So that one, yeah, that one's great. Um, let's see. Yeah, then I start to get bored with all the regular songs like "Inter
In
Tragedy." I'm
the
like, meh.
tragedy,
I don't even remember that.
find my holding.
I think "Jester's
Something
Door"
like
is
that.
another cool like interlude. Another
I
very
like the ending of it.
yeah. Like I think it's self-referentiating. Like I think he's referencing probably a lot of this album is actually that Anders or
Yeah.
the band referencing themselves. Um, and then yeah, I don't know. I don't really care about the two closing songs
A
that
New
much.
Dawn, yeah, that's a 5 and a 6.
Yeah.
I think I'm
Um,
similar.
yeah. I mean, I think this album is important to me because it was just a time and place, and then also it taught me how to be disappointed, let down by a
Hmm.
band in a way. Still,
Yeah.
I give this a 6.2. I do like the album cover. I give the album cover a 7. I don't mind the production or the construction of the album,
Hmm.
and I rank it I believe 7. Yep, 7 right after Come Clarity.
Yeah. Wow.
What is yours, I wonder?
Well, so I say this is sort of similar album structure. I think they move away from some of that chugginess they had on them, like the previous logo
Yeah.
albums, you know. And also, I guess they did that for a sense of purpose too. But I think some of the courses and are one note, and the sound design is repetitive.
Mhm.
But I like the guitar solos. I think are still good. It's also nostalgic for me. Track ratings. Let's just run through this. The first two, they're sixes to me. They're good, but I skip them. I like All for Me, which
Hmm.
is all for me now. Yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah.
you have some other stuff which are sort of earwormy. The ones I pick, Enter Tragedy, Fears the Weakness, and All for Me. They're earwormy almost. At least for me, they get stuck in my head, which I can't say for most of the other ones. Like I enjoy all the sevens, Where the Dead Ships Dwell, The Attic, Darker Times, Ropes. But the ones that get stuck in my head are the ones I gave as eights.
Mhm. I guess I'll have to listen to Inter Tragedy again because I'm just like I don't even remember
Hmm.
what it sounds like.
And this is like a 6.7, 6.6, which comes
That's
in just
that's
below.
higher.
It's just below Come Clarity, though. So
Number 7, right?
that's number 7, yeah, in the album ranking.
Cool. All right, we've moved along pretty good. I think we are through the first 10, and now we're here for the last 4. And this is once again a departure. Mark, you got it pulled up. You want to just go through it. You want to just run through this thing.
Can I get some whiskey first? No, that's
Not yet. Not yet. One sec.
new band logo. They don't keep this one for long. I think because they're like, oh,
Well, shit.
that's
Oh my god,
yeah.
this fucking album.
It's very chaotic, and I don't mean that like it has a lot of discordant music. I mean
It,
it's more
they're
like
not playing
it's
grime.
all over the place. Like it's like they mimic like they listen to a wide variety of music genres, I guess, for some reason, and then they add just random elements of it into the song when they feel like it. It's just
Disjointed as fuck. It's
disjointed as hell.
yeah.
There's some good stuff. By good, I mean like In Plain View. I'm not like I don't dislike it, right? I can listen to those two. Paralyzed, I anything below a 5, I basically dislike, right? I dislike Paralyzed. I don't like To Oblivion. With Eyes Wide Open is okay. Siren Charms, When the World Explodes is barf inducing.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Rusted Nail, I'm apathetic towards. Dead Eyes and Monsters in the Ballroom. Monsters in the Ballroom. Good God. I mean, Filtered Truth is okay. 4.44.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
13. There's one worse album. I wonder what that one
Oh,
could
there
be.
is. I know.
Should I?
So here's mine. Here's mine, real quick. Oh, man. Yeah, it's just a mess. It's exactly what you said. I think I don't want to touch too much on it. Let's just see what I wrote real quick.
It's similar to mine, actually.
Leading up to this, everyone was like, "God, how can In Flames get worse?" And In Flames was like, "Hold my beer." I did listen to this when it came out because I was still kind of a holdout from Sound of a Playground, and that was it. Rusted Nail was the final nail in that coffin because that was the lead single, and
An ugly rusted one.
it was awful. And it's just a jumbled mess of alternative rock, alternative metal, and
Random screams.
just they're still putting like little In Flames touches in there
Which is almost insulting.
for no reason. The choruses are like uplifting bro rock, and
Yeah.
the songwriting is just a mess. I said that Everything's Gone and Filtered Truth are the only tracks that I thought were somewhat redeemable.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah,
I agree with both those.
Yep. I 4.2 is what I gave it, and that is 13 also. So
what could be worse than this?
I have no idea. But one sec, Mark. Oh, hey, what's up? You're gonna need this for the next album.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
All right. Do you already take it? Or should I?
All right, we've re-upped on our whiskey. So, Mark, what are we reviewing next? Mm-hmm. Or actually, let me. Okay. 2016 Battles.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. They're on a different label now. 11-7 in partnership with Nuclear Blast. I don't know, who cares?
Interesting. They go back to the previous album logo because they were like, oh no, we better go back to actual good sound by
Here, pull up your spreadsheet. Pull up your spreadsheet. I want people to see this fucking ranking. It just sucks because listening to Siren Charms, you're like, how could it get worse? What could they do to make it worse? And they find it. I think it takes more talent to do this than it does to actually write just a semi good album. It's bizarre.
There are actually one or two songs on it that I like. Like, I think only two songs. In My Room and Through My Eyes aren't terrible. They're only 6s, which I mean, I'd skip that if they came up in a playlist.
But it's all about what are they next to?
Yeah, they're next to. I'd give it a 0 if it wouldn't break my ranking scale. But yeah, it sounds like Siren Charms, but it's not as chaotic. That's true, but it's also worse.
To me, it sounds like they were like, "Oh, you guys hated Siren Charms. It's okay. we'll
We'll get
fix
rid
it
of the
for you.
chaotic elements and
Well,
double down on the choruses, and then they
yeah,
just
and add our screaming back
ruin
in
it
because
all.
Siren Charms had like no, screaming,
Yeah,
and
they
this
add
song at
more
least this
screaming,
album does.
but they double down on stupid choruses like
Yeah, so they don't
"My heart, my
understand
heart, my heart," and
what they're doing wrong, and the choruses are the most repetitive, stupid, fucking choruses out there.
mm-hmm.
Like the chorus is on like sand. I don't even remember what it is, but it was awful.
I don't want to remember it. I'm getting
I
shivers just thinking about it.
It was one of those where I think I kept looking at you, be like, "Is this sounds like
Is this real?
yeah, this does not sound like what a band called In Flames would create."
To be honest, I think any band that made it would be bad, even if
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess some people may. I don't know who would like it. Like I know the fives I have on here and the sixes on here. I think some people could like them. I don't see how people would like some of this stuff though. But I don't
like
know.
I feel like you'd have to track down.
No accounting for taste, really. But
No, but I feel like you'd
I
have to
don't
find
think.
like a Kid Rock fan or uh,
Yeah.
an Imagine Dragons fan and be like, "Here, I have this new song for you. It's a little angrier, but you'll like it." And they'll be like, "Oh yeah,
Yes,
this is okay."
it's the gateway to mellow death for Imagine Dragons fans.
This is the Imagine Dragons Metal-Death pipeline right here. Maybe that's what they're trying to
It's
do.
trash. It's garbage. It's a 3.8 for me, which maybe
Wow.
lower for you. I don't know.
Did you actually rate? Did you actually listen to all of it? Because I didn't think we ended up listening to all of it.
The last two I sort of I may have skipped The Greatest Greed and Us Against the World, or maybe I just went to the chorus. But
Yeah, I do not remember those. Man, I think you might have just skipped them. I only wrote this album is Imagine Dragons in Flames. That's it. That's
yeah,
it's like
I don't even
alternative
know if
safe alternative rock from the
at least
2010s.
Imagine Dragons was popular in their scene. Like
Yeah. I mean, I went to like the full album stream. I mean, this is what I listened to it on the full album stream on YouTube, and was looking
that's
at the
true.
comments.
That's
And
true.
there are people defending this and defending. I mean, you can always tell there's the people who are too into a band or too like roped up in protecting a band because they're like the apologists, right? All the comments that were defending it were like, but this one track was fairly good, and this other track was, also
Decent.
okay. They mainly mentioned In My Room and Through My Eyes and Wallflower.
Yeah, I think all those are okay. Yeah. They're decent.
So, but they're not taking into account how awful the lows are.
I mean, when you have this many songs on an album and less than a third of them are good, it's like,
what are you're doing something wrong. You're doing a lot of things wrong.
yes.
Go reevaluate your life. Yeah, 14 songs, 55 minutes. That's just
It's
a
way too
long
long.
album. No matter how you slice it, it's yeah. So here's my ranking. I did not get to the last 4.
Yeah.
So I stopped paying attention and giving a shit after Underneath My Skin. I want to say like dishonorable mentions. The Truth. Maybe that was the one with like the crazy chorus that sounded like a jazzercise class.
About it.
Okay, fine. This album sucks. I rank it as the bottom of my ranking. I gave it a -1. Okay. Boom. We're done.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 more. There's 2 more. 2 more albums.
I forgot.
It's only up from here.
But
man.
Guess what? I didn't get around to listening to I the Mask, right?
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's only you. So Tell me
Yeah.
real quick. Let's look at your spreadsheet. This can be super quick. They're doing something
It's
different
way
with the
better.
album cover and
It is
logo.
the same
I kind of
sound.
like the album
I will
cover.
say it is the same sound. It's still sort of Imagine Dragonsy,
Yeah.
but it is. Why is this? There we go. There we go. It's like a decent version of Battles, really, which is like I can even say it's twice as good, right? But it is also very poppy, very sing-songy,
Twice
very
of a one
Imagine
is a two.
Dragonsy,
Yeah.
very very Imagine Dragonsy. But you really don't need it. It's still skippable. It's still repetitive. It still overuses the clean vocals. It's just, for me, it's a 5, basically, full stop. There are some songs that I just didn't like. This Is Our House, I really hated because it like there's like a
Is
section
that
in
a
it where it
cover?
just says, I don't know. I have no idea.
Hmm.
I just didn't like it. It's like they just like chant "This Is Our House" and like an anthem thing in the middle, which is the most played part of the album stream, which I don't understand why, but I guess some
Okay.
people like that.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Some of it can be 6s, but to me, that's just something that's like it. I feel it.
It does
I feel
something
emotions from
okay.
it, but there are way better songs out there, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not apathetic to it, like a 5 or something, and I don't dislike it, but it's not something I'd recommend to anyone.
Have you heard of this band In Flames?
Listen
Eye the
to Eye
Mask
and the
is a great.
Mask.
Yeah. Here's this Eye the Mask album. It has "This Is Our House" on it. It'd be great for your next home high school football game.
It's it's the best album since Sounds of a Playground Fading.
Well,
So it's
that's a
ranked
claim
number
to
12.
fame.
And then we have Foregone, which
Wait, I
no,
ranked it
you
number
have
12. I ranked it number 12 too.
yeah, that's
My
good.
ranking was who cares? This is the number I gave it. So yeah, okay. So we're caught up. We're at present day. We
Yeah.
made it through. Cheers.
Whew.
Whew. It's
Foregone. Yeah.
Foregone. The year 2023. So
It's
came
a
out
foregone
February 10th.
conclusion that In Flames is past its prime.
Yep. I think they're aware. I want to touch a little bit about like the kind of leading up to this album, since it did catch my attention, like building to it.
A lot of people said it was like the return to form and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like
Absolutely. I saw countless YouTube videos after the first single was released, which I'm trying to think of what the first single was.
I think it was
State of Slow Decay.
which I think that's one of the better songs on this album, actually.
Yeah. I don't know if my spreadsheet
opinion,
is super accurate, but yeah, that was the first single, and like as soon as that released, all of these different YouTubers were coming out with like the big reaction faces of like, oh god, they're back. In Flames is back. And they've gone back to their glory days and stuff. And
yeah, it's the best album since Sounds of a Playground Fading.
Yep. And there is a member change, which, as I said, I think there have been multiple lineup changes that I've not mentioned, just because I don't know.
Yeah.
Who cares? But Chris Broderick from Jagpanzer and Megadeth pops in for this album. So maybe that supposedly led to the more aggressive guitar playing and stuff.
Well, thank
But a
God.
lot of people, like leading into it, a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is a return to form. Maybe In Flames is going to be kind of back." I don't think it actually ended up like even in like the zeitgeist of popular metal music, it's ended up being that. Probably no more towards the end of the year if people actually have stuck with it. But I definitely stopped hearing about this album.
Once
Honestly,
it came
right when
out.
it got right when it got released, I stopped hearing about it. So
Yeah.
maybe there was a label push. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, I think if
What
you
what is your
hear the
take on this one?
single,
I'll add your
if you hear State of Slow Decay by itself, and
yeah.
imagine that the rest of it, like a lot of times, singles are not the best, not necessarily the best song on the album, although that hasn't been true for an In Flames single for like 20 years
For
at this point. So,
since Clayman, probably.
yeah, 20 years, as I said.
Yeah.
So, uh, but yeah, it's the single may be the best song on the album.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and
But
it
we're
does,
out
the
of
single
for
is somewhat
yeah.
reminiscent of like Reroute to Remain or something. But so if you like that sound, that's good. And it does go through a tour of those sounds. It doesn't really hit any of the pre Clayman stuff, which is a shame because that's the best part of In Flames. But it does sort of cover everything before this album, but which unfortunately includes siren charms and battles. They sort of keep that tone to it, but it's sort of just the best version of that
Mm-hmm.
of I the Mask or something, where they just add even more heaviness to their sort
Like
of clean singing poppiness they had in
yeah.
those previous three albums. And it's more cleaned up and it's more. There's some elements that they just they are reminiscent of older In Flame stuff, and it's maybe because of Broderick, Bodrick,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I say it right here. It's their best since Signs of a Playground Fading, but that's not really a high bar,
No.
and it's not even
Yeah.
better than that. So it's not even better than any of the stuff before Sounds of a Playground Fading. So
No. So what's your ranking and
uh,
rating?
11, I guess, but probably a 5 point, yeah, 5.6.
Oh, just didn't break the six.
No, it's still.
Uh, yeah.
This would be like a. If it was at a 5 stars, it would be like a 2.8, 2.7.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna pull up my my spreadsheet for this one. I think this sounds like another apology album, if you will, to me. Like they try to bring in
Yeah,
Chris Broderick as the big gun to clean up the sound. And when
which
they
they
mean
did,
when they say yeah,
but
but they just made it less offensive. They made it less like
it's still the same sound they had on I Am the
yep.
Mask, just with Broderick and with more heaviness and it's better blended screaming and heaviness than like
Mm-hmm.
the slap hazard stuff they put in battles. But
Yeah, but
you know,
it's still just not
it's
a
still
good
what it is.
sound. It's still not what I don't know.
It is what it is, and the pinnacle of a pile of shit is still part of a pile of shit, basically.
Well said. So yeah, I basically to me, everyone says it's a return to form, but to me, we're so far from the original form that it doesn't even matter what they're trying to recapture. it's not what not what I'm looking for, not what I'm interested in. And
Like,
if it's a return to form, it's not a return to the form that I want or remember and
yeah,
think of as the band. So
like it's not even a
I gave it
return
a
to
5. I gave it a 5 out of 10, and it's
11
uh
probably.
oh yep 11. Wow, I think our ranking
We
is
have
probably the
a few
same.
switcheroos, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have your ranking uh on a page, or is it just in memory? Or is it on the spreadsheet?
It's here on the spreadsheet.
I'll pull it up.
So here we have Clayman, 9.4, 9.1, 8.5, but keep in mind this is like, uh, I don't think the numbers I summed up, it's not properly like set up. Like if we remove subterranean or if we add in different stuff. But I gave my, its place in the ranking is still the same regardless. 8.2. Let's see, C30. Yeah, so that one has all this stuff in it. So. But it's still 8.4, just a lunar strain by itself.
Mm-hmm.
8.2 Horacle. Colony's just a solid 8 for me. Then you drop down to a just below a 7 for Come Clarity. Sounds of a Playground Fading is below that. Soundtrack
Yeah.
to Your Escape. Honestly, they should stop putting sound in the titles and start focusing on fixing their own sound.
But
Sense of Purpose. Reroute to Your Remain. Like,
that's all within a similar score, though. That's 6.25
the
to
sixes.
6.75. Yeah, the sixes.
There's some good songs.
I have a couple that are like that too.
There are like 3 songs on there that I enjoy a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that's out of 14 songs. Too many songs. Cut like 4 of them. Yeah, you know. Then we have Foregone, of course. 5.6 for me. 5.2 for I Am the Mask. 4.4 for Siren Charms. 3.8 for Battles.
Oh.
I mean, for me, for like what I want from an album, anything below a 6, I don't really want to buy.
Hell, for me, it's anything below a 7. I made an exception for.
No, well, the thing is it depends on price.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Like
yes, you're right.
I'll buy 6 ranked stuff for like if I see something in the store and it's like, oh, that's a 6, I'll pick it up if it's like $2 or $4 or something.
Yes, I agree, and I got this for 6. So I mean, that's.
I would never pick up something that I consider to be below a 6.
Yeah, I would not either.
So
I think we are like relatively similar in ours. Let's see. So mine is up.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I gave Clayman 9.4, 9.5, 9.4, same thing.
8.8.
Yep. Colony right behind. Oracle right behind that. And then like a little bit of a jump to like Lunar Strain. That album just feels a little more clumsy to me. And then Come Clarity still feels a little more clumsy, but because they're trying to appeal to emo kids. And then a big jump, and now we're in the realm of the 6.
Yeah.
So, Sounds of Playground Fading, to Reroute to Remain, to A Sense of Purpose, to Soundtrack to Your Escape.
Too.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I actually ranked all of these lower than you, because On the Mastodon one, I was all like at top. I was above in all my
Mhm.
rankings. So
Well, I didn't like
I think
Clarity as much.
I think you like this band more than I do. So what did you rank Clayman? Was that, or what did you rate it? 9 point.
9.4.
Oh well, that's why I rated mine. So
But Just
we're at
Erase I
this.
rated as a 9.1.
Yeah,
Colony and Oracle I rated as like
low eights.
Colony is an 8. Oracle I think was maybe an 8.42. Lunar Strain was an 8.8. So
Okay.
for me, that's where Just Erase is. Right.
Oh, but Lunar Strain is an 8.8. I yeah.
Yeah. And then Come Clarity
Some big
a
love for Lunar Strain.
6.9.
Yeah,
Lunar Strain is great. It is
man.
clumsy, but the parts that are there's no it's good.
I didn't hear any tens on it though. That was the thing. I didn't hear any tens
I
that
have a
were
lot
like,
of tins on
oh,
there.
that's a 10.
I have a lot of stuff where I listen to it and I was like, oh. But keep in mind that was like some of the first real Melodeath I listened to. Like I mean I listened to Gallery and some Dark Tranquility stuff, but I had not yet listened to At the Gates at all when I listened to those
Oh, yeah.
and like other Melodeath stuff from that era. You know.
I mean, it's definitely a good album. But no, so to wrap it up, then there's the big jump down from the sixes to Foregone at 5. And then you
Yeah.
see the mat. It's Who Cares. It's definitely in between here, but I didn't listen to it, so actually I don't know. But maybe I don't care. Siren Charms, Battles,
Yeah.
man,
To me, I Am the Mask is
what
just
a mess.
Siren Charms and Battles without the bad stuff. But they didn't add any good things.
And that's why I
Right?
knew I could safely put it there, as long as it did not screw up the choruses and everything like Battles, or just make it as convoluted as
Yeah.
Siren Charms. It'd be better than those two. So that's it. Those are our rankings. I think real quick, I just want to go like a quick conclusion or like a wrap up to this stream. Like, what did we learn? Like, what's the final takeaway from spending this much time on such a frustrating band that likes to change their sound, likes to evolve?
Yeah.
What is the takeaway? What are we
And you
gleaning?
say they have a lot of apology albums, and I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking when they do this stuff, but to some extent, I'm worried they enjoy that sound, right? Like I think
Mm-hmm.
they are playing what they like, because YL, I don't know.
Well, first, thank you, sir, for
we
recognizing it. It was a
This is
lot.
some good whiskey,
Yeah, that helped. Ooh,
but also I drank like a gallon of coffee. But
that helps too.
yes. Whew,
Is that kind of your takeaway? Like you're like, do they actually like what they're doing? Is it?
Why else would they keep? They just kept perfecting that sound that they introduced actors. Like they can't. I don't know. Like that's what it is because they change up their sound. They're like, and then they have to finish it out to the pinnacle of that sound that they picked, and then they restart
I
with
just
usually a worse sound.
yeah. Like, do you think there's actually like a purpose driving them, or they just don't know what to do? Like, I almost feel like they don't know what to do, and
I think they
they're
just
just
don't want to
grabbing
do
at
the
different
same thing
stuff.
again.
Uh huh.
I think they don't want to do the same thing again.
Because once again,
And
to
they're
give
just
them
trying to
credit,
find new stuff to do.
they could have just like kept it at Clayman or kept it at Come Clarity.
Yeah, I mean they can
But
because they still play
yeah,
those in concerts, don't they?
they do. Which actually I did look up the recent set list out of curiosity to see what it was. It was definitely not one I was like, oh, I will
Yeah.
go see them live.
Dang, I missed that. But it's
Yeah,
like,
I'm gonna go seek out In Flames. But so they open up with The Great Deceiver, and then they
I
go
think I
into
like that one.
Yeah. Here, one sec. I think this is actually my share screen tab. Wait, no, it's not.
Yeah, Great Deceiver
There it
is
is.
a
Great
7 for me.
Deceiver. So Great Deceiver. Then
Where
where
the Dead
dead
Ship
ships
Dwells.
dwell.
Leeches,
Uh,
Pinball Map.
yep.
Behind Space. Only for the
Yes.
week. They have all the
Yeah.
greatest hits on this, basically.
So I looked at a couple different set lists. They always played Only for the Weak and Behind Space. I think those
are some of the best songs they've ever played.
are the tracks
So
that they just keep in there for the fans,
I think to
And
some extent they
mhm.
just don't see a need to redo a sound they've already done, right? Like
I guess, yeah.
I
Which I mean
honestly
that's
think
admirable.
that they just don't want to stick with the same sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they will ever do an album like they will never return to form because they don't want to. Is
And that's
what I
that's
think.
exactly it. Like even Foregone is probably still a step in their mind to where they want to go. I don't know, but I think they're always referencing how far they've gone from their previous sounds. I mean, the final
Yeah.
song of Foregone was what was the name of it? In Transmission. In the
In the
Transmission.
transmission.
I mean,
Yeah.
that speaks loud and clear to me. So I don't know. It's tough to say. I think for me, as to kind of wrap up this whole long ass stream of a interesting and rewarding but frustrating discography.
If
I
you
want to
start
say,
from their new stuff and head
yeah.
backwards, it's only up from there. So that's
Well,
good.
that's a direction success. So to me, like this is an exercise on how to approach a band that I feel like has long abandoned their sound and that I no longer feel connected with. Like, am I actually a fan of this band at all?
Mm-hmm.
And how does the output of the albums that I don't like, how does that output affect my relationship with the band? And for me, diving into this discography, it affects it a lot. Truthfully, like if the band is releasing albums like what In Flames is currently releasing and has been probably since 2000 and I guess I'll say 11, just to be nice. Um, I don't want to see your shows. I don't want to wear your T-shirts. I don't want to necessarily follow you on like the new songs that are being released. What you're doing next. Like not even a passing interest. Like even when Foregone was like approaching and all those YouTube videos hyping it up were coming out, I didn't give a shit. No cares. I didn't. I didn't listen to it until I was ready for preparing for this stream. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just was not interested.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that being said, the legacy of their 2000 and back output will forever, always be with me. It will be something that will always revere. And to me, the main thing and my main takeaway uh, of going past this stream is kind of just ensuring that people don't discount In Flames and discount all of their music because of what they
Mm-hmm.
currently are and what they've been the past 20 years at this point.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many great albums early on in their catalog. I mean, the first five to me, I would recommend to really anyone who just has a passing interest in metal, death metal,
Mm-hmm.
melodeath, metalcore, new metal. I mean, there's something there for I think everyone from like the first five.
People who like Hot Topic.
Yeah, I mean, if maybe they'll shop somewhere else eventually. It's like trying to get it so that metal fans who are approaching this band aren't turned off just because of hearing Siren Charms or something from their whole
Yeah.
discography. I mean, like, I hope if anything, like some of the people who were tuning into the stream earlier on, like Ben and Chris, will check out some of the earlier stuff and
Hmm.
actually find some amazing melodic death metal and just amazing metal in general, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of good stuff in the discography
It is
as well.
common where I'll check out something and I'll be like, that doesn't sound good. Like modern Camelot or modern. I haven't checked out old Arch Enemy, but I don't like modern Arch Enemy that much.
That's a good example for a band
But
for me as well.
mhm, uh, At the
Yeah,
Gates has some modern stuff, which I don't know. They had a long hiatus, though.
they do. So, like, if we were to dive into the at the Gates catalog, it'd be a lot different. The highs would not be as high, but then there would not be as many
I don't know.
lows, let's just say.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe that's for a different stream. Who knows?
Yes.
Uh
And
Anything else? Oh,
I would go to an In Flames concert because that set list was not bad at all.
would you would you seek it out if like they were the headliner and it was like $40? You'd be like, yeah,
It depends. Like, is that in a
see?
city near me? Like, is it
Oh,
within an hour drive? I don't know.
okay.
But that's for most concerts.
Well, duly noted. If they come touring by here, let's
And it's
go.
because
Let's go see Only for the Week.
they don't do any of the bad songs off. Like, even Take This Life isn't terrible. Like,
I
I
like Take
mean,
This Life. I just yeah.
yeah, but it's like a 7. It's
Seven
closer to the
nine.
10. Yeah, closer to 10 than 0. So closer to 10 than. I guess this is
True.
closer to 5 than 10, though. But anyway.
True.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Everyone, in closing, thanks for enduring all of this punishment with us in one way or
Mhm.
the other. Uh, this has been fun. It's been interesting, but it has been fun. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's cool to explore those
Hmm.
like shitty albums and just
And a lot of
be
bands have
reinforced
those.
that like, oh yeah, this kind of sucks.
Megadeth has those.
Megadeth definitely has
Metallica has
those.
those.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
man, John, cheers, man.
Thanks.
Cheers to everyone else who watched or might watch. Yeah,
Have a good
check
night.
out check out this album. Have a good night. Peace.